That's all I can say for now.
Very well. Let me add a few more. You were Minister of Agri in the last government, were you not?
Yes, Mr. Honorable Chairman.
And what committees were you serving on while the Member of Parliament?
Sorry, I think the member is on the phone and I can't hear you properly.
What committees of Parliament did you serve on whilst you were a member of Parliament?
I served on the Committee for Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs, the first term as deputy ranking and the second term as ranking member for that committee.
Is that the only committee you served on, the 2 terms? Which other committees did you serve on?
I served on other committees. I served on the committee for you have to excuse me. I have to check because basically I was more interested in my committee.
Very well. Yes, sir. Yes.
Chairman, let me welcome the nominee, the President Minister Designate for Food and Agriculture, and to congratulate him, but to take him just, Chairman, as you observe. Your CV, go to page 1, the one you submitted to Chairman. I see Member Economic Management Team. I see Commissioner National Development Planning Commission. When I go to the second page, Chairman, we don't have any information on his parliamentary career in the CV. So if you can explain that, in this CV, we ought to know that you serve as member for Kwadaso. And we ought to know that you serve from this period to that period for the purpose of the record in your CV, unless there is an improved CV that I'm not aware of. But what we do have, Chairman, I don't seem to have enough information on it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll provide that additional information after this.
All right, thank you. You are the President's Policy Advisor on Food and Agriculture. What is the state of food security in Ghana today?
The state of food security, Honorable Chairman, is very solid. We've never, as a country, been in a situation like this for many years. And I'm saying this, it's so obvious. If you go to our markets, even in the midst of our dry season today, from the north to the east to the west, you'll see along the way, on the high roads, the minor roads, a lot of food being sold. And you look at the prices and so on, you'll realize that these prices are far less than in previous years for the seasons that we are talking about. And normally, Mr. Chairman, this is the season where you have the least amount of food and the high prices because the rains are not here with us. They're in the dry season. Stocks are supposed to be at their lowest. And therefore, it's a good time to demonstrate the fact that, indeed, food security...
Chairman, I just heard a nominee say that prices of food are less. You want to share with this committee how much is on a long car or a bowl of gari selling in the market, a bowl of maize, how much is selling in the market, and probably a bowl of kinky, so that we are satisfied that we have food security in the country, there is abundance of it, and Ghanaians are feeding well. You want to share that data with us? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I've got loads and loads of statistics here. I could submit that to this committee in terms of both production of the major food items like maize and rice and so on, stocks, prices, everything is here. So if...
Chairman, if you can just share a few details in a minute, then submit it for our perusal.
Okay.
Further on, Chair.
In terms of, if you take maize, I consider maize to be the most important food security crop in this country, for the mere reason that it's the only crop which grows in the four corners of this country, is also the staple crop of most ethnic groups in this country. And before we came into office in 2017, the highest amount of production of maize in this country was 1.8 million metric tons. And I'm talking about 2016, which was the last year before we took over. Since then, Honorable Chairman, maize production in 2017 was 2 million, it hit 2 million, 2018, 2.3 million, 2019, 2.9 million, and 2020, we projected 3.1, but for the massive drought in the south of the country, in the main producing season and the minor season, we could have reached that level, but because of the drought in the two major growing seasons in the south, we were able to do 1.9 million tons. So that is one indicator. The other indicator is to do with prices. Mr. Chairman, I have here the monthly trend in average wholesale prices in major markets in Ghana. It's all plotted out here. Unfortunately, I didn't know I was going to have this question. I would have brought a screen to show you exactly what it is. But all the details, including the graphs, are here to show exactly what I'm talking about. That in spite of the seasonal nature of the price movement of maize and other crops, in particular case of maize that I'm holding, you'll see that the cycles are very clear.
Minister, how much is the bowl of maize?
Sorry? I don't have, no, we track maize prices in 100 kilogram bags.
So how much is 100 kilogram of maize selling in Ghana today?
We have here on average December, we had 172.39 cedis per 100 kilogram bag of maize. That is the average wholesale price in this country. If you look at 2019, for the same December, it was 127.62. You look at 2018, it was 133.35. But, Mr. Chairman...
Can you add 2017? 2017, how much was that?
Sorry?
2017, how much was a bowl of
2017, it was 92.96.
So, does that support your mathematics? Is it less or high from 92 to 172?
Yeah, but if you take account, Mr. Chairman, if you take account of inflation, these are nominal figures that we track. But to get the real prices, in order that you have the standard way of measuring, you have to look at it in real terms, not in just nominal price terms. In economics...
Thank you, Charles. So how much is a bowl of kenkey? You have an idea? You are responsible for...
We don't, unfortunately, we don't track the prices of bowls of kenkey.
You don't go to the micro level.
What we track are the prices in the wholesale market, selected wholesale markets in Ghana. That is the job that the Ministry of Food and Agriculture does.
Minister nominee, you have an idea agriculture's contribution to Ghana's GDP today, even though I know that there has been substantial decline in the last decade of investment by government in the agricultural sector. What is its significant contribution to our GDP as of today?
Well, as of today, of this date, 19th of February, I cannot tell you. But I can say that the latest statistics from the central bank is pointing to 19% of Ghana's GDP. And they have dropped from 20 years ago when it was nearly half of GDP. And that's what, Mr. Chairman, we would expect in any growing economy, that the agricultural share of GDP will come down, the services and industry will go up, which is the historical fact. So this trend in Ghana is not unique. It is indeed. We expect that all the plans put in place by this government, if they are to be carried out, that the share of agriculture in the GDP will continue to fall, while the others like manufacturing and services like tourism, banking will go up.
Thank you, Chairman. You are supervising a very important sector of our national economy, which probably accounts about 60%. It is quoted in some literature of employment in Ghana. I come from the north of Ghana, and one of our main staple food is rice. Rice production in northern Ghana, apart from the vagaries of the weather, we do not have combined harvesters, and the cost of it too high for poor farmers up north. Even if you talk about acquisition of a tractor, if you take from Savulugu through Bushegu coming through Nantong, Nasia, you probably cannot find more than 2-3 farmers who may be able to afford a tractor. If you get confirmed as minister, what will you do to make this available to support rice production in northern Ghana?
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. In fact, the phenomenon being described by the minority leader is not only specific to rice. It's so with all the grains. And the demand for machinery, for harvesting, for processing has gone up because production, the basic production has gone up. In the case of rice, I can say that in 2017, the total milled rice in Ghana was 433,000 metric tons. 2020 is gone up to 1 million metric tons. This is what the Ministry of Food and Agriculture's estimates are. And so there has been more than double increase in doubling the production of rice, and therefore the quantity of the milling capacity is expected to go up. Unfortunately, the private sector has been very slow in taking up this opportunity in rice milling. So government has had to enter into an arrangement with countries like Brazil and India to bring in farm machinery, of which harvesters and milling facilities are a major part of what is going on. So government is has taken note of this shortage, and I'm sure that this year both the Brazilian supply and the Indian supply of machinery will be able to address this issue that we are discussing.
Thank you, Chairman. You are reported to have made this significant statement about, and I just want to quote you, the hike in food prices. I think we all recognize that only 4 years ago, a bunch of plantains, you had to spend 40 Ghana cedis, but now with 3 cedis to 6 Ghana cedis, you can get a bunch of plantains. It shows you clearly that we have come to reduce prices of food, even in the major cities like Accra, where there are substantial rushes in the market. You are quoted to have said this. Do you stand by the statement? Is it a true state of affairs in relation to plantain in the country?
I stand by this statement. In fact, there has even been an improvement in the supply of plantain since I made that statement. Don't forget, plantain, like any other food crop, is a seasonal, has a seasonal supply characteristic. So you find that after the harvest, there's a lot on the market, and as we enter the dry season, production and the supplies go down. We can say, with the monitoring that we are doing for even exports of plantain, that was unheard of. Export of plantain. You go to Agadugu, there's a special place, and I'm sure you saw the television clip where journalists followed a truck of plantain from Agogo to Agadugu.
Thank you, Chairman. So, in your strongest view, food is very cheap, and Ghanaians who could not afford a meal today now can afford 3 meals. Do you have a sense that there are Ghanaians who still cannot feed and struggle for a meal a day?
Mr. Chairman, obviously in any society, Even you go to the United States or you go to the United Kingdom, there are people sleeping outside on the pavements. So we are talking about the generality of the improvement of the people of this country, not specific to a few people. The comparison is between now and what it was 10 years ago or what it was 5 years ago. And I'm very confident, and I don't think I'm the only one. I mean, there are a lot of people who bear witness to the fact that supply of food in Ghana has improved considerably under my watch as the Minister for Food and Agriculture.
Thank you very much. Has your attention ever been drawn to the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority giving a concession to a company called Fruit and Export Terminal to support the export of horticultural products through the Tema Port?
I'm very much aware of that, Honorable Chairman. This is a very sore subject for me because 10 years ago, so 2008, my predecessor, the late Honorable Deborah, signed an agreement with GAPOHA to convert one of their warehouses for fruits and vegetable exports. Unfortunately, that agreement has not been complied with, and the fruit exporters have drawn my attention to that. We are in constant discussion, not only with GAPOHA, but also with the Minister of Transport to resolve this issue. So it's still a matter which is under consideration. Is
the agreement functional or has been terminated?
Mr. Chairman, I couldn't hear what he said.
I'm saying that the agreement for the export terminal, are you aware that it's been terminated? Is the agreement terminated? Are you aware it's been terminated?
No, I'm not aware of that. As far as the records of the Ministry for Food and Agriculture is concerned, that agreement of 2008 is still alive.
Was there an agreement subsequent to 2008 in 2015 that you are aware of?
Yes, that is part of the issue that we are dealing with. That instead of dealing with the fruit exporters, GAPOHA entered into agreement with another company, giving the concession to them.
What is the name of that company GAPOHA gave the concession to, other than that to which your predecessor minister and another agreement in 2015 were signed? You want to give us the name of the company?
Mr. Honorable Chairman, I do not recall the name, but I know that GAPOHA entered into a concession agreement with another company. I cannot mention their name. I have to look through the records.
We will need it for the purpose of the oversight we are exercising. But you are aware that naturally if you terminate a concession agreement, the consequence of it may be judgment debt. Are you aware of that?
I'm very much aware of that.
Will you work to avoid a judgment debt on the state of Ghana, as that itself can amount to contributing to some financial loss to the state?
Yes, I'm very much aware.
Chairman, I will take the nominee back. That one is a policy decision of President Nana Akufo-Addo. Probably it came to Parliament. I don't support that policy initiative of putting the Minister for Cocoa under the Ministry of Agriculture. I still believe that given the nature of cocoa and its contribution to our national economy generally and to the management of our foreign exchange regime, cocoa should still have some supervision of the Ministry of Finance. You inaugurated the cocoa marketing company. Did it have all institutional representation as was required by its enabling legislation? The board.
Sir, what's the question again?
The CMB board was inaugurated by you.
CMC or CMB?
CMC. The CMC board was inaugurated by you.
That's correct.
Did it have the requirement of the law of all, the requirement under the legislation of institutional representation?
Honorable Chairman, as far as I'm concerned, it did. it went strictly according to the regulations guiding the operation of Cocoa Marketing Company of Ghana.
So no institution was left out to the best of your memory?
Yes.
So the concession agreement between Gapuha and the food processing company, what is the status to the best of your knowledge?
Please,
what is its status?
Mr. Chairman, are we discussing Cocoa Marketing Company or we are discussing Gapuha? Because I'm a bit confused now.
He's left Cocoa Marketing Company now. He's come back to...
but Chairman, he answered me. He said he inaugurated it. He didn't see anything wrong with the institutional representation. I go for that. But I have shifted again just to conclude on the matter of the concession agreement between Gapua and the Export Terminal Ghana Limited. Are you aware that this matter was brought to the attention of His Excellency the President? President Nana Akufo-Addo?
Mr. Chairman, I cannot see that letter from here. So unless I cite the letter, I cannot answer the question.
All right, Chairman, probably let me rest and our colleagues will take a bite, but I'll come back along the line with some handing over questions so that the Honorable Muntaka probably will hold my back. Thank you.
Honorable.
No, Eric.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Honorable Minister, I'm right here on your left. Right here. Congratulations. Minister, you fought through this House a very important loan agreement for about 150 million United States dollars from the Indian Exim Bank for the agricultural mechanization equipment services centers across all districts in the country. I know the challenges that we went through, but can you address us on the status of the implementation of this very important program for rural agriculture? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. In fact, I inherited this agreement between the Exim Bank of India and the government of Ghana. And it had been in the works for 4 years. We were hoping that within the first year of our administration, we could conclude on the Indian facility and have available to our farmers the machinery that we so desperately need. Unfortunately, I found that it was a very long process. We are just coming to the end of that arrangement where we are signing. Last year, I think in July, our Minister for Finance signed with the Exim Bank of India representative in West Africa. And even after that, all kinds of procedures has to go through. I'm happy to report that we are hoping before the end of this year, 2021, we'll start receiving the items from India. We heard from Honorable Haruna how desperate we are for harvesting machinery and others. And we really need this equipment to help our farmers in agriculture in Ghana. So we are very hopeful that before the end of the year, we'll start receiving the item. But before then, for the interest of this committee, the last tranche of the Brazilian facility has now been approved by the government of Brazil, and hopefully before the major season in the north, and around May, June, we should start receiving machinery from India for the same purpose. So yes, we have $150 million worth of farm machinery coming from India, and we have $33 million worth of farm machinery coming from Brazil. Between the two, we should address adequately the issue of supply of farm machinery to our farmers in order to sustain the growth which has started in this country in the last 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. My second question relates to what Honorable Haruna Idrisu asked. Minister by the new legislation means, for the cocoa sector, means the minister responsible for agriculture in terms of having oversight over the cocoa board. Recently, we've heard in the media, and even a statement was read on the floor, on cocoa board's indebtedness to a lot of LBCs, local buying companies, and issues with fertilizer, and the initiative on cocoa farmers scheme, pension scheme, among other initiatives and challenges. We want to hear from you on the issues with regards to the LBCs, cocoa rules, fertilizer issues, and the farmers pension scheme that was launched by the President and your Wholesale, I think sometime in December or so. Thank you.
Honorable Chairman, that has been a very unfortunate situation in the past month or two. And it's because of the peculiar nature of the cocoa industry. COVID has hit the centers of chocolate consumption, that's in America and in Europe. So demand for chocolate and, for that matter, cocoa beans has gone down. Arrangements that we had made with the foreign banks to finance our operations are dependent upon the number of contracts that we are able, in other words, the amount of cocoa that we can sell as a guarantee to these foreign bankers that to release the tranches. For the first time in I don't know how many years, it has not been possible for us to sell enough contracts to enable the last tranche of about $190 million to be released. In fact, if you compare the amount of contracts that had been sold out this year compared to the same period last year, we are down. We are really down by nearly 1/3, which means that the decline in demand for cocoa beans by the chocolatiers and the processors, which is a result of the COVID, the lockdown in Western Europe and in America, is really affecting our operations here. So by now, before the end of the year, normally we should have had enough contracts for the release of the whole amount of $1.3 billion. Unfortunately, we couldn't sell that fast. So now that we have the contracts sold, we are expecting that coming week, early next week, the last tranche of $190 million will be with us, and then we can pay for all the outstandings of cocoa, and that issue will be behind us. In the meantime, the central bank is cooperating very closely with Cocoa Board to give them some bridging facility to help some of the LBCs to pay for the cocoa that they had taken from the farmers. So that's how far we are with the situation with the LBCs and cocoa farmers. Thank you.
Honorable, I didn't hear from you on the farmers' pension scheme. I'm sure you address it whilst I tie it in with my last question. I know you are a very big farmer in coffee, but looking at a report on the coffee subsector, it's not that encouraging. And can you let us have some understanding and what you are doing to improve upon that sector? That's my last question, Chairman. Thank you.
Honorable Chairman, if you look at the statutes establishing the Ghana Cocoa Board, shea and coffee are two tree crops which, by law, Cocoa Board should help to promote. Unfortunately, that part of the work of Cocoa Board has not really taken off. I remember very well, as a ranking member in this august house, I initiated the process with the government at the time to provide us with 4 million, to provide a 4 million project as a pilot for coffee development. And the committee, those of you who are here who are members, you remember after the third year we went around the country to inspect these projects, and they were great prospects. I mean, you went to Eastern region on the Kwahu Hills, you went to parts of Ashanti, Eastern region, Brong Afo. Then the pilot scheme had been very successful, and at that time I even recommended as a ranking member the government should make available 40 million cedis to enter into the main project. Unfortunately, that money didn't come, so we're stuck with a pilot. But you may know that we have initiated this great idea of diversification out of cocoa by selecting 6 crops, 3 crops, for which this August Parliament approved the establishment of an authority. The President of the Republic last year inaugurated the board and the management of this Tree Crop Development Authority in Kumasi in November last year. So their work is precisely to pursue what Cocoa Board couldn't do by developing these 6 crops, including coffee, third level Cocoa Board for development. We know that that is an area which is going to assist the country in the medium term. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, when you won elections and you became the Minister for Agriculture, I assumed your position as the ranking member. I hope you are hearing me. And so I'm doing your work for you. One of the major challenges facing the agricultural sector in Ghana has to do with lack of access to funding. Access to funding. The Ghanaian banks are unwilling to advance loans to players in the sector because of the huge risks. And it was against this background that your government actualized the GESAL project. By GESAL, I mean Ghana Incentive-Based Risk Sharing System for Agricultural Lending. The facility was approved by this House, and you reported to us in the 2020 budget that GESAL became operational in 2019. Now you added that you have a board, full functional board, with management and staff. And you also indicated under paragraph 580 the arrangements the board is making to get more funds for farmers and those in agribusinesses. What specific legal instrument delivered this board?
Honorable Chairman, I'm not a legal person, but what I know is that GESAL was initiated by the Central Bank of Ghana to address the issue of agricultural finance. And they have made a lot of progress by forming a limited liability company to manage GESAL. So GESAL, in practice, is now a limited liability company. The constitution of the board, I have to consult with the Central Bank, which is the sponsor of this, of GESAL. But what I know is that GESAL is up and doing. We are in touch with them. We've had a selection of, in the poultry industry, where we are initiating a pilot scheme. GESAL has been involved in collaboration with the Agricultural Development Bank in providing finance for a selected number of poultry farmers and feed millers. So GESAL is actually up and running, as far as I know. In terms of the board itself, to be honest, I cannot give you any detail about that. Thank you.
Chairman, just to do a follow-up, and colleagues, bear with me, I probably will not have the long winding one. Just on GESA, you say you are up and doing with poultry when you don't have a board. Is that a good governance style?
Honorable Chairman, as far as I'm concerned, we have been, between myself, the governor of the bank, and the Minister for Finance, we have been collaborating in trying to get this model financing for the poultry industry on a pilot basis. And that if it worked, then we're going to extend it to other agricultural activities. I know for a fact that Wholesale is now a limited liability company. Limited liability companies, you have to have a board. So I'm very surprised if there is no board, then management alone cannot take decisions. Or then it means that Wholesale Limited is not properly constituted. And I doubt whether the central bank will supervise such an auditing.
I know that the Minister of Finance is has an update about that insurance initiative on the agriculture. Can you just assure us that you work with the Bank of Ghana to allow for the takeoff of that initiative?
Sorry, Honorable Chairman, can you repeat?
I say I've read budget statements of the Honorable Minister for Finance, and he has an update. He seemed excited about this insurance intervention in agriculture. So I'm asking that if you do become minister, will you work with the Bank of Ghana for the takeoff of the initiative?
Honorable Chairman, that's precisely what I've just said.
That's appreciated. Chairman, there was, between 2017 and 2018, in the public space, there was this cocoa roads, for instance, the Eastern Corridor in the Volta region, many other cocoa roads dotted around the country. You are now supervising minister for the cocoa board. We are told that there was some audit. You have an idea what the findings were, any wrongdoing, how much did it cost to undertake the audit, and can the audit report be made available to us? Thank you, Chair.
I know of that an audit took place at the beginning, I think 5 months after we came into office. But this is something that was done between the Ministry of Roads and Highways and Ghana Cocoa Board. If the member wants further information, I can always provide that.
I will appreciate the report. And Chairman, my last question. Fertilizer pitches in Ghana, there is a company, AMG, capital A, capital M, capital G, which probably was incorporated in 2017, I hope I get it right, which has won a number of major contracts. I'm also aware that the Ghana Exim Bank have loaned them some money. The servicing of it is not as good as it should be. Do you have any interest in the company? Is there any relationship?
Honorable Chairman, I deal with loads of companies in the Ministry for Food and Agriculture. In fact, in this particular activity of fertilizer, there are over 50 companies that we deal with. All the 50 companies cannot be, the details cannot be, and their activities are beyond me. So I'm not in a position to answer that question.
All right, thank you, Chairman. What do you want to leave as your footprints for President Nana Addo Dankwa as your legacy as Ghana's Minister responsible for food and agriculture? Thank you, Chairman.
Planting for food and jobs. That's what I want to leave for the people of Ghana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just a short follow-up. You indicated in your response to the question I posed on GESA that Bank of Ghana has formed limited liability company. Who are the shareholders?
Bank of Ghana.
Now, my next question has to do with Planting for Food and Jobs, the legacy that you intend to leave behind. You have indicated to the whole country that under Planting for Food and Jobs, you created 2,286,892 jobs. In fact, the Minister for Employment included this figure in his calculation for the number of jobs the government of the MPP and Nana Danko Akufo-Addo has created within the last 4 years. Now you recall that in your budget you reported to this House that 94% of these jobs that you have created under Planting for Food and Jobs were created on the farm. They are farm level employment. When you calculate that 94%, it will give you 2,194,678. These are jobs you claim you have created through Planting for Food and Jobs on the farm. When you talk about farm level employment, what exactly do you mean? Can you give us the specifics?
Honorable Chairman, this is a subject that we can sit here and talk about for many, many hours. At the end of the day, we are talking about what is created out of Planting for Food and Jobs. The central part of it, as far as security is concerned.
Honorable Minister, hold on. I think the figures that the Honorable Member is using to ask the question are different from the figures the Minister for Labour said. And he's actually, when we asked for the document, he brought them to today. The figures you're quoting are not the figures he used, which he gave to this House. Yes. No, this is the figure he said and which is quoted in Parliament, which was brought here. They are different from the figures you're quoting. That's right. Sorry? I'm saying that the figures you are ascribing to the Minister for Labour is different from the figure the Minister for Labour brought to this House. He came to answer a question in the House, and he submitted the documents. It's a copy he has just brought because when he appeared before us, we asked him to bring the same documents. He brought them to us this morning. So I want you to ask your question, but quote appropriately the figures, not the figures you quote. That's not what is the official document before us.
Chairman, the figure I quoted, I said the Minister himself.
Oh, the Minister himself?
This is a figure
I thought I heard you say Minister
he has
for
been
Labour.
used on several platforms. And I refer to the handing over notes of the Minister for Employment, which also referred to the same figure. The 2.2 million jobs under Planting for Food and Jobs.
Sorry, I've been left totally confused, Honorable Chairman. Can he repeat the question?
Honorable nominee, how many jobs have you created under Planting for Food and Jobs?
Honorable Chairman, I'll have to come back to him on that. But I want to make a very clear explanation. We are talking about job creation, which is part of the title of the government's policy, Planting for Food and Jobs. The jobs are deriving from the food that we are producing in abundance for the people of this country and beyond. The only determination of the figure, ideally, will be to have a labor census in the areas that planting for food and jobs are being conducted. But it is not possible to conduct a labor census to determine accurately the number of jobs created in the areas that planting for food and jobs are being undertaken. So we have to rely on estimates. And those estimates, the figures that I've given, that is quoted by the honorable member, are derived from the estimates that we make. We are not saying that it is to the last person, but just to give a comparative analysis in terms of the fact that if, for instance, in the case of maize, I mentioned earlier, Honorable Chairman, that maize production has gone up from 1.8 to 3 million metric tons. Obviously, using the labor-intensive methods, because we have very little machinery, it has to be by hand that this increased production takes place. And of course, it would mean that more people are engaged to be able to produce the quantities that we are talking about. So I don't think we need to split hairs about whether it's 1.8 million or 2-point-something million. Basic question is, has production taking place? Has the growth taken place? We are saying yes. And secondly, how did it come about? We are saying by labor, by engaging rural labor, and in some cases even urban labor. And then thirdly, what is it that the quantity of site labor? That is where there is a controversy as to whether it's 1.2 or 1.7 or 2.1. So I don't think we should labor the point to the extent that it becomes, it erases from us the essence of what the government is doing in promoting agriculture in Ghana. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the Honourable Nominee has on several platforms been very precise in respect of jobs created under planting for food and jobs. On one of the platforms, he indicated that he has created 2,286,892 jobs. It's all over. And this is the number that the Minister for Employment used in determining the number of jobs they have created in this country. And this is firm expression in the handing over notes he presented before us. And he indicated that that was even prepared somewhere in July, and that the updated figures will be made available to Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, when you read paragraph 259 of the 2020 budget, it is stated that 94% of the jobs created under planting for food and jobs were created on the farm. The peasant farmers on the farm created 2.1 million jobs. And then 4% to value addition. We need to understand all these things. And then it says that 2% to extension, delivery, and ICT. A total of 45,000. Mr. Speaker, we wanted a nominee to explain to us, one after the other, when we say you have created jobs on the farm, what are those jobs? Very simple. What are the jobs?
Honorable Chairman, I still do not understand the intervention of the Honorable Member of Parliament. I don't.
Honorable, all he's saying is that when you say you have created jobs on the farm,
yes,
what jobs have you created?
Very, very simple. First of all, before we came in, there was very little application of fertilizer, and I have the figures here that I can quote. So, planting for food and jobs is encouraging farmers to apply fertilizer using improved seeds. So, the increase in fertilizer the application is done by hand, by labor. So obviously, the same number of people cannot carry on with this. They have to get more labor from outside their families to be able to do that. That's the first point. The second point is that once, Mr. Chairman, is there an intervention? Once the seeds are in the ground, because of the fertilization, the amount of weeds increases. So you have to employ more people to maintain the farm. Then after that, you are talking about harvesting. Instead of 2-3 bags, we are talking about, in some cases, 15-20 bags. So the additional production has to be harvested by hand. So where do you get that? That is also creating jobs for the harvesting. Not only for the harvesting, for the on-farm processing, for carriage into the nearest village and neighborhoods and all that. All these create a lot of jobs. Basically, that is what it is. And in fact, in undergraduate farm management studies, you are taught that you need so many Mondays to do this work, to do that work, to do that work, and then you put it all together to say that you have every acre of land that you operate for cocoa or for corn or for soya, so many Mondays of labor are created. That's the basis on which we do these estimates. So if you accept the fact that production has doubled in some cases, it's even gone on 3 times, soya production and so on have all gone up. They are the source of the creation of the jobs that we are talking about. And that is more important than to say that it's created 1.2 or 1.3 or 1.4 million jobs. Labor is an input into production. Land is an input into production. Fertilizer is an input into production. Land is an input into production. So all of these have to be calculated in order to come to an estimate of the profitability of each crop that the farmers produce. So that's the basis on which we are saying that production, so many jobs have been created. In any case, Honorable Chairman, these calculations are done between us and the Ministry of Employment, because they know the regulations and the definition, international definition of what is employment. They represent Ghana at ILO, International Labour Organization, and so on. So we cannot do these things on our own at the ministry. We provide them with the basic data, and based on their framework, they come up with a calculation, and hence our contribution to the Minister Designate for Employment. Thank you.
If I get you well, do you mean that when a farmer takes, let's say, 5 bags of fertilizer, you assume that having taken 5 bags of fertilizer, the farmer will employ 10 people. Then you write 10. This person take 3. You assume that he will employ 5 people, then you add 5. That's aggregated to the 2.1 million you are talking about. Is that the impression you are creating?
Honorable Chairman, please. I'm trying to discourage our honorable member here from splitting hairs. And the way I see it, I don't see how an answer to that question.
Just answer quickly what he has asked.
So, but the point, I'm trying to understand the question, but I don't understand the question.
Very well.
And if I don't understand the question, I cannot answer.
Let me make it simpler for you. It says, in counting jobs created, do you count the short-term employees, like those who are employed to apply fertilizer for this period and left, or they are talking about just permanent workers? That's my understanding. Is that right? Yes, he says I'm right. So,
yeah, we're talking about permanent employment. That's job creation. From my recollection of what the Ministry of Labour is saying, the definition by ILO, that is not just going to apply fertilizer and going home to sleep, and then we can't do as job creation. In any case, the same pool of labor. They're talking about rural labor. And he comes from a rural constituency. He should know what I'm talking about.
Very well.
So, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Nominee, on what basis do you determine the number of people employed on the farm? On what basis?
I think he has answered that question.
The
Ministry of Labour uses the ILO regulations. He said that in his answer.
And that regulation, what does it say? So what is that regulation? What is that? No, we want to understand. Mr. Chairman, this is a very important issue. The nominee is in charge of the sector. He has implemented a very important program. And he claimed that that program has generated so many jobs. We are now interrogating those jobs. And he's saying that when we supply the fertilizer.
Honorable member, ask a question, please.
So I was just asking, what is that regulation? The ILO regulation that determines the on-farm employment. What is it?
Chairman, I'm surprised. The Minister of Labour himself has been here. He didn't ask him that question.
Do you know that regulation or not? Just answer shortly.
Honourable Chairman,
do you know that particular regulation or not?
I will refer to my brother, the Minister of Employment.
Yeah.
Your last one, please.
Mr. Chairman, so, Honourable Nominee, do you mean that as you said before this committee, you cannot tell the committee the exact number of jobs you have created?
Honourable member, if you have another question, please ask it.
Now, my last question has to do with procurement of slashes by Cocoa Board for our farmers to weed their farms. Cocoa Board has procured some slashes, and in all the cocoa growing areas, you see some of these slashes lying idle because the farmers cannot use these machines to weed their farms. Can you share with the committee the cost of this machine and whether it is serving the purpose for which it was bought?
Hello, Chairman. I think this is a very important question. I cannot sit here and speculate. So I want to inquire from Cocoa Board exactly how much it costs and all those things, and I can come back to you.
Right, thank you. Yes, Hassan.
Mr. Chairman, Honourable Minister Designates, congratulate you. The program of rapid expansion in maize and soya production for export and local livestock production is for me a game changer. And the good people of Kushegu will be happy to hear more about the plans and programs and see how much of it that we can take advantage of. Can you apprise this committee of any update on that program? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honourable Chairman, this program has 5 modules. Planting for Food and Jobs has 5 modules. The most popular is the food security that everybody calls Planting for Food and Jobs. And it's been conducted in a way that over the past 4 years, more and more smallholders have been brought into the program. In fact, we started with just about 200,000 farmers, and as of last year, 1.7 million farmers are benefiting. And you can see that the 2 basic inputs, Honourable Chairman, to do with giving the farmers improved seed, which sometimes can give 3, 4, 5 times more yield than the traditional seeds that they are used to. And then the fertilizer, the quantity of fertilizer that we are giving to them have also skyrocketed. And I'll give you some statistics. In terms of seeds, in 2017, we distributed 4,400 improved seeds of maize, soya, sorghum, millet, and the others, rice, and so on. By 2020, that figure had gone up to just below 30,000. I mean, leaps and bounds, from just 4,400 to 30,000 metric tons of improved seeds. And this year, we intend to do, 2021, we intend to distribute 40,000 metric tons of improved seeds to these farmers. At the same time, if you look at the amount of fertilizer, in 2017, we were able to distribute 121,000 metric tons of organic and inorganic fertilizer. By 2020, that figure had jumped to 424,000 metric tons. The rate of increase of these supplies of these is totally unprecedented in the agricultural history of this country. This year, we are hoping that we will be distributing more than 500,000 metric tons of fertilizer to the farmers. So, the member of parliament for Kushegu does not have to worry at all. We are making sure that we reach every smallholder farmer in this country, at least in the second term of the Akufo-Addo administration. So that is the answer that I can give, Honorable Chairman.
Honorable Minister Designate, so I'm also into livestock farming, and I was excited when I was going around my constituency and hearing the success story of rearing for food and jobs. I'd like to know what program you have in place to scale up the program from the initial launch. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. We have a very comprehensive program for livestock development in this country, and that covers all livestock. We are talking about poultry, cattle, piggery, small ruminants, sheep and goats, guinea fowl, and all that. And the program is such that I'll just put poultry aside for now. We import high breeding species from the Sahelian region, bring them into Ghana, and distribute them to farmers, selected farmers in a selected number of regions, especially in the savannah regions, the 5 savannah regions, plus some Bono East and so on. And every year we are increasing the numbers. We give these hares to the farmers, and we expect them to keep them for a year, and whatever comes out of that, we take that out and give it to another set of farmers. So gradually it becomes an exponential growth in the number of livestock that the farmers are producing. So basically that is it. But I can give you the numbers. In the first year, 2019, 7,500 sheep were distributed to 750 farmers. Currently, 23,000 sheep and goats are in the process of being distributed to 740 farmers, 11 livestock breeding stations of the ministry. So if you come to piggery, we have the numbers here, and so on and so forth. But I think in terms of the economy, the most significant part of the rearing for food and job is poultry, because Ghana is spending something like $350 million United States dollars importing chicken meat into Ghana. Only 25 years ago, we used to export to Nigeria and our neighboring countries. The industry collapsed, and it's the determination of this administration to revive this, the livestock, which creates a lot of jobs as well. So we started with a pilot, as I mentioned earlier in my intervention. We selected a number of poultry farmers and feed millers, and we've linked them up to the Agricultural Development Bank and Wholesale to finance them. We are just coming to the end of the first stage of the pilot, and then we're going to expand the program. Then the next 2-3 years, majority of poultry farmers in this country will be benefiting from this arrangement. So that is the way it's going. When it comes to cattle, which has become very controversial because of the Fulani involvement and so on, we've done the experiment in their farm place, taking one big area that was abandoned after Akoto's administration, which is a kind of ranch. We resuscitated that ranch. We put cattle in there, feeding them, giving them veterinary support. The owners had to pay the livestock attendants, the boys, to just keep the livestock. We do everything, and it's proving very successful. So we intend to expand that even to our borders in the north, so that they don't have to come all the way down, but they can have a cattle ranch there, and then the slaughtering and so on, the meats can be brought into the big cities and so on. So, Honorable Chairman, this is what is happening with the livestock development that we've christened Rearing for Food and Jobs. Thank you.
Honorable Jerry.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable nominee, I respectfully take you back to the Budget Statement 2020, page 57 briefly, which says that 94,259, it says that 94% of these jobs are linked to farm level employment. Are you thinking of an agri policy targeted at university graduates that will help them to get employment, high-end employment in the agribusiness? Because it's obvious that these are low-level employment. Are you targeting young university graduates in high-level employment in agribusiness?
Thank you. Hello, Chair. One major component of Planting for Food and Jobs, the module that we call greenhouse villages, whereby we have created 3 villages, one in Dawinya, one in Bojuase, and the other in the center of Ashanti, Akumadan. We, with the help of an Israeli private sector company, we've established these 3, which has targeted towards the youth in particular. And the youth, I'm talking about agricultural graduates and diplomats. Well, we train them on site for 3 months, 7 days a week, residential. After that, the best ones amongst them, we take them to Israel. As I speak to you, we have about 120 of these trainees who have come out of this scheme, working on kibbutz to get first-hand experience. And they are not just going there as surplus labor. They are going there as paid employees. Some are getting as high as $1,500 a month with free accommodation and so on. The pioneers have come back. We've resettled them in this same area because each one of the villages is sitting on 90 hectares, 120 hectares of land, and we are only using 5 hectares at the moment. So as and when they come, Ministry of Food and Agriculture will help them to settle, to do their trade on the site, so that there will be a common arrangement for marketing the produce and all those things, and then they will just concentrate on the production, intensive production. And this is high-tech agricultural production for highly qualified youth. We are hoping that we'll get into a kind of PPP arrangement with a private company to come in with their own resources to help to expand.
Everyone wants to ask a question, so make your answers short for us, otherwise we will keep long today.
So that is in answer to your question, that yes, there's a component which is looking at highly qualified agricultural graduates and diplomats to be part of the Planting for Food and Jobs program.
Before I ask my next question, I'll encourage you to expand it so that we can all feel the impact in Ghana. Expand that. Before I ask my next question, I will encourage you to expand that project so that a lot more young graduates get the opportunity in agribusiness. Okay, my next one is more localized. In Bono East and Bono region, there's a lot of tomato production there. Tomato production. We grow a lot of tomatoes in Bono East and Bono region. However, in the months of January and May, you don't have enough. But any period short of that, if we get the traders going to Ouagadougou, it becomes a challenge for the tomato production in these areas, especially Tobodom area. Last year, you sent your deputy minister to come to Tobodom to look at it and have a discussion with them. For date, they've not heard anything from you, and that practice is going on. It's affecting the business in that area. What do you intend doing about it?
Thank you. Honorable Chair, yes, I remember that Honorable Odro, at the time Deputy Minister, who was the Member of Parliament for New Dubiase, was dispatched to go and talk to them. In fact, he's still in touch with them, except that the difference is there's a big investment in tomato processing which is coming up near Brekum, between Brekum and I've forgotten, but around in Brekum district. I visited that facility. It's big enough to take as much tomato as we can produce, if you look at the statistics that they are providing in terms of their capacity and so on. And I'm just praying that without private sector intervention, the people of Tobodom, tomato farmers and others will take full advantage of such an industrial facility to produce more. In fact, as far as Commandant is concerned, we are hoping that that factory would open soon, so that once production starts ramping up, they will have a market for their produce. So we are hoping that that will also happen to the Bruno East and Bruno tomato farmers.
My last question, which is also a follow-up. You are thinking of more people entering into the tomato production sector. Are you also thinking about irrigation around these areas to promote all year-round cultivation? And I mean all these areas you are talking about, Bono East, part of Bono region, and then Akomadam area.
Yes, the thing is, as you know, irrigation is a very expensive, capital-intensive activity. So you may be aware of the Pualugu project that the President inaugurated, cut the saw actually, about 8 months ago, where the government of Ghana intends to spend nearly $1 billion, $950 million for this Pualugu irrigation and electricity generating project. So just one project is costing that much. But as far as Bono East, Bono West, and the forest belt is concerned, God has endowed this country with huge valleys full of water that we can produce a lot of rice and so on. And the ministry is doing everything to promote such activities, and in fact, even vegetables, of course, because if they are at a check all over the place, that's where the water is throughout the year. So I would look at the natural endowment aspects to promote production first, before spending the huge amounts of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, trying to bring irrigation to these places. So we are aware that in the very dry areas of this country, yes, they will need irrigation, and that's why we are doing the one village, one dam project in the northern parts of the country. But I think that in the forest valleys, we have overlooked a natural endowment which can really change our production in terms of exploiting this resource would rise another high water demand crops. So we are looking at that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Patricia PJ.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, congratulations. And as a former Minister for Agriculture, we are very proud of you for introducing the Planting for Food and Jobs program. You will agree with me that to enhance food security and sustainable livelihoods of Ghanaians, there is the need to adopt technologies that support disease-free planting materials, production, and resilient crop varieties. Honorable Minister, but first I would like to know whether you have been in touch with BINARI, the Biotechnology and Nuclear Agricultural Research Institute in GAEC, and if you have, how do you intend to adopt current and scientific proven nuclear-related techniques in this area?
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. The nuclear institution that the member for Asokwa is referring to is one of many such research centers belonging to the CSIR. And this morning I heard the minister designate, my namesake, Dr. Afriyie, talking about the contribution of CSIR to agricultural development in Ghana. I'm talking about seed, improved seed, improved seed. These improved seed have been really bred at these stations by our top scientists. So if you take a hybrid seed, I mean the recent one which will become very famous is the Wasi maize hybrid from the University of Ghana, which we are collaborating with them through a private sector company to replicate and to expand, because their production is twice as much as the OPV of our Tampa and Co., which are also products of scientists in Ghana. So yes, we use the nuclear institution for instance, the pineapple industry, which nearly collapsed. We are the ones who came in with nuclear technology to produce the new seedlings for pineapple, and is reviving the pineapple industry. At the moment, we are working with them on other areas of crop development where nuclear technology can be used for the seed and other productions. So yes, we are closely working with the scientific community in Ghana to ensure that their sweat is a major input into agricultural development in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a follow-up, I think what I want to know from the Honorable Nominee is whether your ministry is prepared to sink in some funding to explore more into these technologies. Because, Honorable, I can tell you for sure that currently we have a problem with our farmers, and they are having difficulties and the challenges in agricultural insect pests, which they have the right technology to address. But what we are faced with, the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology doesn't really have the adequate funding, but since it resides with your ministry, I would like to know if you are prepared to support this BINARI to develop these technologies to support the pest controls and also improved variety of seedlings. Thank you.
The budgetary constraints facing the Ministry of Science and Technology is the same constraints facing the Ministry for Food and Agriculture. So, but BINARI, we recognize their potential, and like all other research institutes, are suffering from acute shortage of resources for them to carry on work that they have been trained to do. So we really sympathize with the Ministry of Science and Technology for not having enough budgetary resources to support BINARI, but obviously whatever product comes out of the work of BINARI, we are prepared to propagate and distribute among farmers at some subsidized rate so that they can increase their yields and their production to support the transformation of agriculture in Ghana. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, and my last question, and that is on ornamentals. When we talk about ornamentals, I know you know, flowers and all that. It really contributes significantly to our socio-economies of Ghana. And there's a high demand for potted plants and fresh flowers by consumers in Ghana. However, growers are faced with ineffective traditional propagation methods. And then I want to find out, how would you help to mitigate these challenges? I think I've had a discussion with you that it has such a potential that it is important that we add it up to the numerous programs that the ministry is promoting at this point in time. How would you want to support that?
Thank you. Honorable Chair, this question really relates to the component of planting for food and jobs, the module greenhouse villages. Because you go to Kenya, fresh cut flowers, vegetables, and the greenhouses, they are very, very significant in the agricultural economy, to the extent that they are able to bring $3 billion worth of these products to the European market. And yet they are about 3 times the freight away from the market. We are only 5.5 hours. And indeed, the village concept, the greenhouse village concept, includes fresh cut flowers and other ornaments. It's not only vegetables and that is a very important component, and it still requires this greenhouse technology to be able to produce that. So there's a lot of hope for the future of these ornamentals and cut flowers, because our eyes are actually trained on not only vegetables for export, but also high quality cut flowers and ornaments for the European market, which is so close to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my first question is on smuggling of government subsidized fertilizer to neighboring countries. Mr. Chairman, in August 2017, Ghana's graphic business uncovered a syndicate of smugglers who carted subsidized fertilizer across our borders to the neighboring countries. I want to find out, and from statistics, Ghana loses close to $120 million as a result of fertilizer, smuggling of fertilizer. I want to find out from August 2017 to date, what practical steps did you take to prevent or stop smuggling of government subsidized fertilizer in the country?
Thank you. Honorable Chair, since this is a House of Record, I want to find out from the Honorable Member this $120 million that he talks about.
Honorable Minister, if that is not correct or you don't know that, say that, but you don't ask the question.
Okay.
So let's give us the answer.
Because I'm surprised. The total amount of money we spend on fertilizer in this country, it means that half of it is carried away across our borders, and that cannot be true. This is why it's a rhetorical question, but it is a fact that I'm stating that it cannot be $120 million. In any case, Honorable Chairman, we have taken very severe measures in the last 2 years to stop the leakage, the illegal trade in fertilizers across the borders. And the reason why it is there is very simple. We are the only country around us which subsidizes fertilizer in seed. No country does that. And therefore, and we are subsidizing fertilizers, as has been indicated, 50%. So the smugglers have a field day with a huge amount of money if they are able to carry one bag across the border. But I would like to, in an answer to his question, I would like to come out with 4 items that we have done. First of all, we have restricted the distribution of fertilizers to the districts that are known to be indulged in this trading. And these are in Upper East region. We have 6 districts that we have restricted the movement of fertilizer into. Upper West, 6 districts. Northern region, 2 districts. Northeast region, 1 district. And Volta region, 5 districts. So for the last 2 years, we've restricted the movement of fertilizer to these districts because we know them to be the centers of this illegal trade. Now, apart from that, we have also branded all subsidized fertilizers with big logo, Planting for Food and Jobs, and with a yellow band diagonally crossing every bag. And the bags of fertilizer for subsidy has also been reduced from a unit weight of 50 kilograms to 25 kilograms. So that is another area that we are doing. We are resorting to reduce to the minimum the movement of fertilizer across our borders illegally. At the moment, we are trying a new system of e-monitoring of fertilizer distribution. We've experimented in the northern region with, I don't know, maybe 50,000 farmers, where we register them, take their thumbprints, give them a card, and they can load, just like Momo money, they can load on it, and then they use it at the retail and pick up their fertilizers to go and apply on their farms. So we have gone to a great extent, and these is working. And not only that, because of the threat of jihad in the northern part of West Africa, Ghana has stationed platoons of soldiers along our border in the north, from east to west. And we are collaborating with these platoons also to monitor movement of fertilizers and other products, including some petroleum products across the border. So this has effectively reduced to the minimum the amount of fertilizer which crosses the border illegally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my next issue is on cocoa production. Mr. Chairman, for the 2019 budget, on page 112, Cocoa Board is implementing some interventions to ensure cocoa production in the country. Some of the interventions include mass spraying, artificial pollination, cocoa farm irrigation, and mass pruning. But I'm sure the minister will agree with me that if you go to the Western North now, as part of implementing these interventions, cocoa production keeps on going down. So my question is, what do you think is the problem, and what is your effort going to do about the drastic going down of cocoa production in the Western North region?
Honorable Chairman, it's very unfortunate that we witnessed a massive decline in the heart of the cocoa industry, which is now the Western North. And we all know that production has virtually collapsed. Now, that has its genesis well before we came into office. The policies that were implemented by the previous administration, by removing the subsidy, the grants that were given to farmers for cutting their trees infected with swollen shoot, did not help. The so-called free distribution of fertilizers to farmers did not help either. So it's taking over 5-6 years until we came before any effective action was taken. You remember that in the heat of the campaign, I think it's September, the president launched this $600 million scheme supported by the African Development Bank and the Japanese banks to try and get to the bottom of this outbreak of swollen shoot, making sure that every tree, not only in the Western North, but in this country, is cut. Because it's a virus just like COVID-19. There's no, in that case now at least we have vaccines for COVID-19. In the case of the CVVS, we haven't found any solution, that scientific solution. The only solution is to take out the tree and then plant with a new seedling. And the new seedling, of course, takes 3-4 years. So we are giving grants to farmers who uproot, take out their trees for the 3-year period that they wait for the new seedling to start yielding. The government is giving a grant, I've forgotten how much, every year to support their incomes whilst they wait for this. And that is encouraging the farmers to voluntarily come forward and cut their trees. And it's going very, very rapidly. I don't have the statistics. Last year, the number of trees that were cut compared to, that's 2019, compared to 2020, is a huge increase in the numbers. So farmers are now very comfortable with this scheme that has been put in place by us. And we are hoping that there will be a massive revival of the cocoa industry in the Western North in another 3-4 years when the scheme is fully implemented. Thank you.
Honorable Member, be guided and take a cue. That will be your last.
Mr. Chairman, my next question is on the payment of cocoa purchased by cocoa board to cocoa farmers. At the moment, the minister is aware that cocoa board owns the LBCs, and therefore the LBCs also own their district managers and purchasing clerks. The minister tries to provide some answers, reasons that have accounted for this non-payments to the farmers. Officer, please. I know what I'm doing. Sit down. Be quiet and listen to me, please. Yes. What is this?
You are the chair.
Mr. Nominee, you try to provide some justification for the non-payment. My question to you is, when should cocoa farmers expect cocoa that will be bought by cocoa board to be paid to them? When? Because we are trying to say that we are expecting the last drawdown, and we don't even know when the last drawdown will come. So when should cocoa farmers expect payments of their farm produce?
Mr. Chairman, I've spent some time on this subject, but because Honorable Ahi is a good friend of mine, I will indulge him with an answer. Monday, farmers will start getting paid. Yes.
My last question.
Honorable, respectfully, you exhausted your turn.
Hey.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Congratulations, Doc. Doc, congratulations. And my question relates to the Ghana Côte d'Ivoire Sustainable Cocoa Initiative that was established, among other intents, to promote better pricing for farmers and to combat the cross-boundary smuggling and to promote other interests. Can you apprise the committee on the benefits yielded so far, and what would you do to sustain the gains in this collaboration when given the nod? Thank you.
Sorry, I think, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, the question was a bit muffled, so I couldn't hear part of it.
Yeah,
you can please repeat.
Look, for the benefits of repeat, the Ghana Côte d'Ivoire Sustainable Cocoa Initiative, the bilateral arrangement that was established with Côte d'Ivoire to promote, among other things, better pricing for farmers and to combat cross-border smuggling of cocoa and to promote other mutual interests in respect of cocoa production. Some 2-3 years on the implementation, what are some of the gains that this bilateral collaboration has yielded for the country, and what steps would you take when given the nod to sustain the gains, the gains yielded from this bilateral arrangement? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Yes, this collaboration started 3 years ago, but it's only this year that we've actually implemented it. We've implemented it. The LID, the Living Income Differential, is to do with the fact that on top of the premiums that the chocolatiers and processors abroad pay for the produce from Ghana, for instance, on top of that, every ton of cocoa that we sell to these importers abroad, they pay $400 on top. So in the case of Ghana, we are talking about $200 premium, natural premium, historical premium. So on top of the 200 pounds sterling on the London terminal, there is also the $400 per ton that these customers have to pay under the LID. That has enabled us to increase our producer price on the 1st of October, as the President announced in Serioso, by $400. So that went straight to the farmers, and they are still benefiting from it. It's only recently that it has emerged that Côte d'Ivoire is having problems in implementing it, because there is virtually a boycott by a section of the international traders of Côte d'Ivoire cocoa. And of course, they know that Côte d'Ivoire produces the chunk of the total production between us and Ghana. They do something like 2.5 million metric tons. Ghana is doing around 900,000 metric tons. So there is a lot of pressure on Côte d'Ivoire at the moment, which is causing a distortion in the market and is making it difficult for the implementation of the LID in Côte d'Ivoire. But we are in touch with the authorities there to see what we can do in order to sustain the whole arrangement. In fact, 3 days ago, I was at an international conference, International Fund for Agricultural Development. We had our 44th council meeting. I'm a governor there. And because of the COVID, we couldn't go to Rome. The key speaker happened to be the chairman of Mars Chocolate. And I confronted him after his speech with a question that you are saying that you are doing all you can in Indonesia to help smallholding farmers. Here in West Africa, you have the late LID with you, and some of your, you are not abiding strictly by the arrangement. You know? Oh, the answer he could give was that as far as mass is concerned, they are keeping to their side of the bargain. And of course, it is an international conference. I couldn't have a banter with him on the issue. So I had to leave it. But it definitely is coming up under some strain because the cooperation that we expected our customers, international customers, to bring to the table seems to be wobbly as we speak. But we are still working on it to make sure that it stays on course. Thank you.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, on my side, Doc, you recall the cocoa districts that are operating to make cocoa implement fertilizers and extension services more accessible to farmers operates in this joint with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture established Ministry of Food and Agriculture district. The MOFA districts are different from the cocoa districts. And sometimes you find one district, one MOFA district, being served by about 3 or 4 cocoa districts adjoining. It makes it very disjointed. Would you consider an expansion of cocoa districts in streamline with the MOFA districts, such that there will be one clear direction where farmers would access cocoa implement and extension supports from? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. This is an issue which has been ongoing, and we've dealt with it on a case-by-case basis. I know, for instance, that Bosome Frehon, District Chief Executive, approached me about the fact that they had to send their cocoa way across to Bekwai and so on, and it's discouraging cocoa production. So he made an application to Cocoa Board, and now they've been granted a district. So, and the same thing for German North, one of the areas. They were saying that it's encouraging smuggling because they have to bring their cocoa all the way. They wanted their own district. I drew the attention of the CEO of Cocoa Board to it, and I'm sure by now they've taken action to create a district for them. But it means that we need to review the whole arrangement because the structure of production, of course, has changed since it was established. These districts were established maybe 30, 40 years ago. So we will look at that and see how best we can fashion out a more realistic district arrangement. But whether it will coincide with Cocoa Board districts, I'm sorry, with MOFA districts, I'm not sure. We'll have to look at it. Thank you.
Honorable Agaga, you have the floor. Thank you, Chair. Honorable nominee, how you've talked extensively about planting for food and jobs. I want to take you back to that policy. Now, how different is the planting for food and jobs policy from the usual agro subsidies that almost all governments in this country have undertaken, including offering support to large-scale farmers for all crops? Because under the planting for food and jobs policy, there are just a few selected crops that the policy applies to.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. The difference is very simple. It's the scale of it. The scale of it in terms of the amount of resources, public resources going into these areas of subsidy, and the quantum of it, the number of farmers benefiting from it. That's the difference. And it's such a difference that is unprecedented. And I have the statistics to support what I'm saying, in the sense that if you look at budgetary resources which has gone into planting for food and jobs, it is such a massive increase, and I just want to give you the very accurate statistics to demonstrate the point that I'm making, and I don't seem to be fighting. Just a second. Anyway, I'll come to it in a second. So, for instance, before 2017, this fertilizer subsidy was put in place by the Kufuor government in 2007, and it was continued by the NDC administration for the 2 terms until we came. Throughout that period, the largest amount of fertilizer which was imported under the program was only 110,000 metric tons. And the 110,000 metric tons, the highest amount of subsidy was only 20%. 20% between 2007 and 2016. When we came, as I told you, from 110, last year, 2020, we were able to distribute about 400,000 metric tons of fertilizer under subsidy to farmers. 400,000. And not only that, we came in with a subsidy rate of 50%. So in terms of scale, and as I said, from 202,000 beneficiaries in 2017, we are talking about 1.7 million beneficiaries in 2020. So it is such a huge volume that last year, between seed and fertilizer alone, from the budget, we spent nearly 1 billion cedis. Never happened before, both in terms of quantity, value, beneficiaries, and so on. So that is the basic difference between planting for food and jobs and other government agricultural projects, programs in the past, as far as subsidy is concerned.
Now, Honorable Nominee, notwithstanding the difference in quantum, that is what you say is the difference. Women groups have complained bitterly, particularly in the Upper West region, that the policy is discriminatory against them because you have to have up to a certain acreage of farm before you qualify to become beneficiary under the policy. And yet, as you know, women are most vulnerable. Most of them are below the poverty line, so they are not able to benefit under the policy. Secondly, the category of crops that the policy covers does not include groundnuts. And you know, in that part of the country, groundnuts farming is the mainstay of women in particular. How do you intend to address this challenge associated with the policy?
Honorable Chairman, I share the sentiment of the Honorable Member in that respect, that there is always been discrimination against women, but the severity depends from locality to locality, culture to culture. And if I may, Honorable Chairman, I will recall a story where my car was stuck in the bush somewhere around Mion, and I had to wait for 2 hours to be retrieved from the bush for another car to come with a tractor to come and pull me out. And I was going to visit a group of women farmers. They waited. When I got there, it was 7:30. Luckily for me, the moon was so bright, we had the meeting. There were about 50 of them. It's a small village, but there were about 50 of them sitting under the tree waiting for me. And we had the meeting. And their complaint was exactly what you were saying, that we should give them special project. We shouldn't add them to their husband's requirement because very little comes to them. And I was very sympathetic to that. Fortunately for me, the regional director of agriculture was with me. So we felt that we should make that as a pilot, make a special program for the women in that village to see how that will come up. To be honest, this was about 2 years ago. I haven't gone back to check about the impact, first of all, the action that it took to make sure that the women are separated and given special treatment, and if so, what impact has it got on production and so on. But now that you've reminded me, I'll go back to see how this thing works, because you're right. Government programs of a rural nature tend to favor men more than women and kids and children. So we have to be able to design these programs or fine-tune them to make sure that there's a balance between on the gender issue. So I'd like to thank you for bringing that to my attention. Yeah.
Final question. Honorable nominee, the last time the Minister Designate for Roads appeared before this committee, like you are appearing now, he gave strong indication that the Chuchuluga Sandema Wesi road is one of priority for this government because of the agricultural potential that the Fumbisi, Wesi, Bedembilisi valleys comes with. Now, and he further indicated that so the Ministry for Roads and Highways is going to collaborate with the Ministry for Food and Agriculture to open up the valleys which are noted for rice cultivation. Now, what concrete plans do you have from the perspective of Agric to open up the Fumbisi, Bedembilisi, Wesi valleys for rice cultivation?
Thank you. Honorable Chairman, the area the Honorable Member is talking about was one of the first areas I visited as an undergraduate in agriculture at the University of Ghana. And they took us there to show us that these are valleys, about 18 of them, that can supply the whole of West Africa with rice. And when I became Minister for Food and Agriculture, I don't know how many years after, it was about 3 years ago when I visited, I was very disappointed to know that only 1,300 hectares had been developed out of I don't know how many. So it's really wasting natural resources to find these valleys which are ideal. Academics accept that that is a place, farmers and so on, but very little development. And in fact, I was in the company of the President of the Republic. The chief of Fumbisi appealed to us to come and open an agricultural college. And it's very much on my cards to do so. But not only that, we intend, as we speak, under one of our projects, we are clearing over 2,000 hectares. Don't forget, all those years, 40-something, 50 years that I went there, only 1,300 or so has been. We are doing 2,000 as we speak. You go there, they will tell you, you can go and see for yourself. We are very determined that we will make sure that God's endowment in Fumbisi is realized. So we are also building a warehouse. We put on a pilot scheme a rice mill, a small solar rice mill, to see how it works. So we have very big plans for the area, you can be assured. And indeed, my Honorable Minister Designate for Roads, we've discussed it, that in addition we need the infrastructure to open up the place, whilst we do our bit to do so. So we have very, very big plans for the people of the area, and you'll hear more about that in due course. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Menshia South.
Good day, Grand Uncle. My first question is, what accounts for the huge difference between earnings from these tree crops and cash crops in Ivory Coast and in Ghana?
It says what accounts for the huge difference in earnings from tree crops in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Chairman. For those who are not very conversant with the subject, Ivory Coast earns something like $17–18 billion from tree commodities. Ivory Coast earns something like $16–17–18 billion every year from tree commodities, about 5 of them. Ghana, we earn $2.5 billion from cocoa alone. And we could do far better. That's the essence of Tree Crop Development Authority. That authority, which is new, is just coming on the market, is charged with a responsibility to ensure that in the next 8 years, 10 years, we should be earning at least $15–16 billion a year from these selected crops: oil palm, coconut, mango, rubber, coffee, cashew, shea nut. That's their brief. And if the government of Ghana supports this authority, I'm sure we'll be there faster than I'm even thinking. So there's a lot of lessons to learn from Cote d'Ivoire about diversified agricultural economy than the monocrop agriculture that Ghana has been practicing for 140 years since Tetekwashi brought cocoa from Fernando Po. Thank you.
But Honorable Minister, the farmer in Cote d'Ivoire, yes, this is a follow-up, I'll give it back to you. The farmer in Cote d'Ivoire is a businessman, and he or she invests heavily in what do we call it, plantations, compared to us, where still the largest majority of our farmers are smallholder farmers. How are we going to reach their figures when we use the same smallholder farmer approach?
Honorable Chairman, if the smallholder farmer has been able to deliver a world-class industry like cocoa in Ghana with a premium of 200, 300 pounds sterling on top of the London market, I don't see why they cannot do the same with coconut, oil palm, rubber, mango, coffee, cashew, and the rest. We can use the same vehicle to develop. The only thing is that government has not been supportive of smallholder farmers outside cocoa. In the case of Cote d'Ivoire, the research, the marketing, and so on are taken care of, just like your cocoa and coffee. In Ghana, it doesn't exist. And that is the assignment given to the Tree Crop Development Authority, that they should establish the research with the research organizations and institutions doing research into these various crops. They should set up the marketing systems. They should use private sector for the development, for the financing of the development and so on, and not rely on the exchequer and all those things. That's their brief. And I'm sure you may not forget that it's only recently that bill came here for this August House to bring it into law. Unfortunately, the President has inaugurated the management and the board. And they are yet to be given their seed fund. But I'm talking to the Minister of Finance to make sure that happens, and they will be off the tracks. Thank you.
Yes, you may continue.
Thank you. With the support of buffer stock, Free SHS has been able to manage very well as far as feeding students are concerned. What is missing is that how is it that we are still not able to give, through buffer stock, enough cocoa products for our secondary schools?
What?
I said through buffer stock under your ministry, free SHS has benefited a lot in economies of scale, quality of the food that are supplied. Why is it that we are not able to do the same thing for cocoa products to our secondary schools?
Cocoa products are being supplied from Ghana Cocoa Processing Company in Tema. Cocoa CPC, as they call it, is 2/3 owned by Ghana Cocoa Board. They've had their problems, their financial problems in the past, where they went and borrowed 15 years ago, 20 years ago. They borrowed in dollars, and so the depreciation of the currency really brought about the collapse of that company. It's only under the current management that that industry is trying to revive itself with a new arrangement that I have put in place between Cocoa Board and CPC to make sure that the company revives. It's got a lot of potential, and I'm glad that the collaboration is working. And once they are on good footing, then obviously the kids can have their chocolate, no problem. But at the moment, they are not strong enough to do so. Thank you.
I'll go to the first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, I want us to go back to a matter that was raised by the minority leader when he engaged you a while ago. It involves an impasse between Fruit Terminal Company Limited and the Fruit Export Terminal Ghana Limited at the ports and harbors. First of all, what was the scope of the 2008 concession agreement that GPHA refers to as a defunct agreement? And are you aware that the FTC is still operating the Shed 9 that MOFA refurbished, and doing so under tariffs that have not been since revised when they were fixed in 2008, despite the fact that GPHA has for over 7 times revised their tariffs. Are you aware that FTC still operated Shed 9, even as FET was in charge of Steve Dorey? So the first part of the question is, what was the concession agreement? What was the scope of the concession agreement?
Honorable Chairman, I'm surprised that the agreement that we have with GPHA should be referred to by the honorable member as defunct. Yeah, I've never heard GPHA referred to it as defunct. I've never, and we've had a lot of correspondence. This is the first time this is being attributed to them. So that is beside the point. The main point that we are talking about is to do with the fact that the Shed 9, Ministry of Food and Agriculture, had to borrow $500,000 US from the World Bank to put it in a position to export fresh fruits and vegetables. And they haven't, the agreement has all kinds of conditions which up to today has not been met by GPHA. Fortunately, I started communicating with my colleague Minister of Transport. That communication is still going on to see how best we resolve this issue at the port. So I'm not in a position to make any comment, either public or private, on this issue until the discussion with the Minister of Transport has come to a clear conclusion. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a follow-up on that, and I have seen a number of correspondence between GPHA and the ministry, and I can say on authority that they have referred to that agreement on defunct. I have those documents here. But the follow-up has to do with the fact that at a point, this correspondence, FTC and FET began to discuss shareholder purchase. FTC therefore appointed Ernst & Young as transaction advisor. At some point, they even requested for an extension of the memorandum of understanding validity to allow them access all the information that they needed to acquire the shares in FET. Now, per this letter, dated January 11, 2021, GPHA writes to the Chief Executive Officer of Fruit and Export Terminal and says that we reckon, in part, that we reckon that this directive of the Minister of Agriculture, when carried out by GPHA, will offend the concession agreement we executed with you on May 18, 2015, which granted you rights to handle the horticulture products and related operations. Unfortunately, we are not in position to decline the directive, considering the source and the motive behind it. Accordingly, we wish to hereby put on notice of your intention to terminate the concession agreement dated June 18, 2015. This is conveying information to them, information regarding the termination of a concession that they have with Ghana Ports and Harbour, and clearly the language will tell you that GPHA is not comfortable with that directive that has been agreed and sent to them by you and the Transport Minister. Again, GPHA in a briefing to you.
Are you asking a question?
I'm asking a question, Mr. Chairman.
Please follow up with the question.
If I ask the question without this background, it will not make sense, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect. With all due respect, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. So, this is their latest letter. But in a briefing to you, Honorable Nominee, they indicated that they had a concession with FET, and as part of the concession, FET was obliged to construct a facility designed to house the central store, the printing section, and offices for the electrical and welfare sections. The cost of this building is estimated at $3 million. And according to GPHA, FET has actually carried out all these projects. According to GPHA, worth $3 million. Now, the cancellation of this concession, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, how will the nominee assure this committee, given a letter that has been written by Providence Law Consult, already indicating intention to legally battle GPHA, that a judgment debt will not be over the heads of Ghana any moment from now, as far as this directive to cancel the concession with FET is concerned?
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Honourable Chairman, I must confess I'm totally bemused and confused about all the quotations that he's making. I've already said that I'm in discussion with the Minister designated for Transport, and this discussion started before the end of our term. And I'm not in a position to make a comment on the issue. It would be very unfair on my part to make a public statement when my fellow colleague is in discussions with me. It's unethical. Thank you.
The question really was that, I think you have answered that question already. Are you sure that a judgment debt is not likely to ensue? I think you have answered that question earlier.
Has he answered that?
The same question, and he answered.
Mr. Chairman, has he answered that?
Yes, the Honourable Minority Leader asked him the same question earlier.
Well, I'm sure that my Chief Whip will look at this because we shared this document, because I would have loved to follow up on it, but I will move on to another question. Planting for food and jobs. In an answer to an earlier question, you indicated again that that is what you wanted to leave as a legacy. I have seen documentation suggesting that, for example, in 2013, the government of Canada began discussions with the government of Ghana on a budget support program, like they have done in the past, in connection with the design of their next phase of support to agriculture, and a number of tasks were undertaken. And on 25th February 2016, the first Secretary Development of the Canadian High Commission met with the Honourable Minister of Agri, Mohamed Muniru Limuna then, and pledged 125 million Canadian dollars support for the 2017 budget. During the State of the Nation address in February 2017, His Excellency the President made reference to this pledge from the Canadian government, an amount of let me just quote what the President said. A national campaign, Planting for Food and Jobs, will be launched to stimulate this activity. An amount of 125 million Canadian dollars has been secured from Canada, a friend of our nation, to support the initiative. Now, also at the signing ceremony, we're told then that the initiative was called MAG, that is Modernizing Agriculture in Ghana, and that it forms part of efforts by government to reverse the declining growth of the agri sector over the past 8 years. This was at the signing ceremony between Ghana and Canada, where the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, signed on behalf of Ghana, and the Canadian High Commissioner to Ghana, Ms. Heather Ann Cameron, on behalf of her country, also signed on behalf of her country. Now, Honourable Nominee, beyond this support that came from Canada, that you inherited as Minister of Agri, what other sources of funds have you mobilized and injected into the then MAG, Modernizing Agriculture for Ghana, rebranded Planting for Food and Jobs?
Yes, Honourable Minister. The question is it Modernizing Agriculture that has been rebranded?
No.
What was the question then?
The question traced the relationship between Canada and Ghana and the offer of 125 million Canadian dollars to support modernization of agriculture, and the SONA of His Excellency the President in February 2017 making reference to same. So I'm asking, beyond this Canadian fund, which was sourced and which he inherited as Minister of Agri, which other funds has he mobilized as Minister of Agri and injected into this program, then called MAG, now called Planting for Food and Jobs? That's the question, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect.
Yes, Honourable, have you sought any other fund apart from what Canada...
Mr. Honourable Chairman, I think the Honourable Member of Parliament is getting very confused. MAG is for a specific purpose of re-establishing extension services in the agricultural sector in Ghana. And the support is coming in terms of logistics. So they have provided vehicles, 300 pickups and 3,000 motorbikes for the extension services. But, Honourable Chairman, before we took over, I did an audit. The extension said I was supposed to be handing over 4,000 extension officers. When I did the audit, there were only 1,600. And out of the 1,600, 80% of them were going on pension in another 2-3 years. So there was virtually no extension services for the vehicles to service. I had to come to Cabinet to ask for an excuse.
Honourable Minister, so you have your program is different and your sort of funding is different.
So I don't understand when you're saying that it's called planting for food and jobs. It's not.
Mr. Chairman,
and secondly, please, I'm answering the question.
Yes,
Let me finish your question, please. Secondly, if you ask which other resources have come into planting for food and jobs, I'm glad to tell him that GOG, Government of Ghana, under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has increased the budgetary allocation to my ministry from 414 million in 2016 to 965 to 954 million in the past 1 year. So is our own resources which has gone into planting for food and jobs, not any Canadian or any foreign intervention. It is a commitment of the President of the Republic to see to it that we put agriculture on a solid footing. And that's where the resources are coming from. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, budgetary allocations to ministries have always increased year by year. And from 2000 to 2008...
No, we'll kindly ask your other question, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'm saying budgetary allocations to ministries do not represent budgetary allocations to planting for food and jobs. Unless he says that...
Honorable, is that a question or you're commenting? You can run the commentary after, please. That's not a question.
Well, we do what we do on behalf of the people of Ghana. My next question, planting for food and jobs still. Mr. Chairman, I've seen a number of research reports. One by researchers at the University of Ghana, who described the planting for food and jobs policy as a piecemeal initiative that lacks the potential to make the desired impact on smallholder farmers. Now, this was a research carried out with the support of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana in collaboration with Oxfam, Private Enterprise Foundation, and other partners. There's another one published by USAID, titled Assessment of Implementation of PFG Program, Lessons and Way Forward. They also identified inadequate supply of inputs and political interference and low awareness of some other parts or inputs of the program beyond seeds and fertilizer distribution. Then there's another assessment by Imani that talks about the fact that mechanization of the farming process is not that, highlighted by the program. Mr. Chairman, my question to the nominee is, with all of these findings, what quality assessments exist for the aim of the project, first of all, and the seeds, especially that are produced, and what support exists for especially local seed producers, so that at the end of the program, we will have empowered and built local capacity for especially the production of seeds in this country, and how timely are payments made to these suppliers?
Honorable Chairman, I'm still very confused because he's gone on and on and on. I don't know specifically what
Which one did you hear?
I didn't get any.
Can you repeat your question, please?
So, Mr. Chairman, I made references to research findings that have identified shortfalls in the planting for food programs. And I want to find out from the minister. Those shortfalls include seed production challenges. It includes awareness in some of the programs, models. Those research findings have also talked about late supply of some of these inputs And I'm asking the Minister what quality assessment programs are in place to ensure that these shortfalls identified by researchers are addressed, especially in relation to seed growers, local seed growers, the capacity building for local seed growers, and how timely are payments made to especially suppliers under this project? That's the question.
Honorable, is there a shortfall in seed production? Do you pay them timely, those who produce the seeds? Which one was the third one? So that it be easier and quicker. Yes.
Mr. Honorable Chairman, he's been very selective. He's been very selective in his choice of literature, because I can also cite 10 different research work which is saying that Planting for Food and Jobs is doing wonderfully well. But I don't want to bore this committee with it. The only thing I will say is that the seed industry in this country has been revived by Planting for Food and Jobs, creating the demand for improved seeds, and a lot of private sector investors are going into seed production all over the country, across the country, in terms of both seed, food crops and cash crops. That one I can attest to. So as far as we are concerned, there's a lot of stimulus going on for input providers in the private sector, which is what we target to do. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my next question, Honorable Nominee, what has been the source of procurement for fertilizer and chemicals, especially at Cocoa Board, since you became minister? Sole sourcing, restricted tendering, what has been the procurement procedure or process used in procuring fertilizer and chemicals?
If you are talking about the Ministry for Food and Agri, Honorable Chairman, it is as transparent as any process would be. We advertise in the newspapers, all the newspapers in the country. It's on radio every year that the ministry is looking for A, B type of fertilizer, organic, this. And we go through the procurement process. So it's called... Please, could you direct your questions?
Honorable, look at me, address me.
Yes.
Ignore asides, please.
But it's disrupting my...
Honorable, we all do asides. You should just ignore them. Please talk to me.
Mr. Chairman, we are very transparent in our dealings with our procurement in the Ministry for Food and Agriculture.
Thank you. Yes. John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to the Honorable Nominee. And you have achieved a lot in line with the vision of His Excellency the President under Planting for Food and Jobs. And but one area that the farmers are not so happy is the poultry sector. As a result of cost of feed and heavy competition from importation of birds into Ghana, it appears poultry farmers in Ghana are uncompetitive. You have indicated that you are going to give special attention to the poultry sector, and that Agri Development Bank is also coming on board. I want to find out, is there a way, as a way of doing something differently, is there a way we can use the Ghana Commodity Exchange to provide an offtake arrangement with these poultry farmers to help them to become more competitive on the market?
Thank you. Honorable Chairman, yes, there is a role, as you know, that the basic ingredient for poultry farming is to do with feed. Feed can take up to 80% of the cost of production. And the feed elements are to do with soya and maize. The two are already on the Ghana Commodity Exchange list. And not only that, Buffer Stock Company is also there to buy through its agents the surpluses that are generated around the country. In fact, this pilot scheme that I mentioned, I said that poultry farming, we are doing a pilot scheme involving about 200 small poultry farmers, which we will extend. It brings together the maize and soya producers. It brings together the processors, soya milling processors and maize milling processors. It brings together feed producers and also the poultry farmers, and beyond that, along the value chain, also the slaughtering houses and the retail shop owners. So all the five are linked in a chain, that it goes from A to B to C to D and so on. And we've done the first experiment, the pilot, as I mentioned, and it seems to be working. So the next step is to increase the number of participating smallholder farmers to from 200 to maybe 1,000. I'm yet to check with the project manager on this. And then gradually step up. As you know, within 90 days of the check, we should be able to produce a 2 kilogram, a 3 kilogram bear. And therefore, there's a chance that if the management of the system works well, at least we have 3 slaughterings in a year for each group. And this is what we are pursuing. We've linked the Agricultural Development Bank and Wholesale to these different groups of farmers, of stakeholders, particularly the millers, because the millers have used their capital building their mills, but they don't have enough working capital to buy from the farmers the soya and the maize. So that is one area that Agricultural Development Bank is intervening to make sure that the whole flow goes on without any disruption. And we are hoping that the assistance given by Agricultural Bank and Wholesale will continue to grow so that eventually the whole poultry industry will become a net exporter of poultry and not the importer situation that we find ourselves today. Thank you.
Very well. Yes, Ramaya.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, who is my tennis court mate, has been beating me on the court, unfortunately. So I have issues with him. And this is my opportunity in Idi Amin's terms to retaliate. After this, when you meet me on the court, you can do whatever you want to do. But let's get back to cocoa. Honorable colleague, Member of Parliament and Minister, outgoing Minister, and looking forward to coming back. Now, the data, International Cocoa Organization. In 2016, Ivory Coast produced 1,581,000 metric tons of cocoa. Ghana produced 778,000 metric tons in 2016. So you took over in 2017. Today, in 2019-2020, the International Cocoa Organization is estimating that Ivory Coast is producing 2,100,000 metric tons of cocoa, and you in Ghana will produce only 800,000 metric tons. 2019-2020. 2019-2020. So you will produce 800,000 metric tons when Ivory Coast will be producing 2.1 million. It means that between 2016 and 2020, your colleague in Ivory Coast has increased production by about 600,000 metric tons. And you would have increased production by just 20,000 metric tons. So 600,000 metric tons across the border, and you have increased production by just 20,000 metric tons. How do you assess yourself in the light of these figures?
Thank you. Honorable Chairman, yes, it is true that Honorable Ayaga sometimes runs away from me on the tennis court, but that will not deter me from giving him a proper answer to his question, which is a very interesting question. So, Mr. Chairman, yes, the trends that are being painted in the two countries are a true reflection of what is happening. But we have to go behind the veil to see the factors driving these performances. In the case of Cote d'Ivoire, they've gone into areas that traditionally were not producing in the forest, semi-forest areas, and have expanded very rapidly with inflows of labor from neighboring countries, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and so on. In the case of Ghana, and so their stock of cocoa trees are fairly new, young trees, yielding disease resistant as any young being will be. In the case of Ghana, we are lumbered with aging plantations which are heavily diseased, led by the dreadful CVVS, which is the virus cocoa illness, which in the heart of the industry in the Western North, as I mentioned, had really driven a knife through the heart there, and production has been reduced by half in a matter of 2-3 years. And this situation, the disease spreading across even to parts of Ghana and Eastern region, is due to the way the disease was managed when it rose its ugly head. That was when decisive action should have been taken around 2012, 2011, 2013. Unfortunately, the method that they used, the government at the time used, did not help. They were asking farmers to cut the trees without giving them any financial assistance to compensate them for the 3-4 years that they had to wait with the new seedlings that were being supplied. So by the time we took over, the disease had really spread beyond the immediate environs of Western North to parts of Western region, Central region, Eastern region, and even Ashanti region. So we are really battling with a situation where even after the reintroduction of grants to farmers, at the moment, especially in the Western region, we are given grants, yearly grants, to not only the farmers themselves, but also to the landowners, because otherwise they will disinherit the tenant farmers who are working on their farms. So this has been in place for 2 years, and now the effects on the farmers volunteering to take out these infested trees is beginning to work because more and more droves of farmers are now joining the program voluntarily, and we have all these teams of gangs going around helping the farmers to cut and replace with the new strains of cocoa seedlings that we are doing. So this is what is happening, and this is the cause of us more or less standing still while the Ivorians have entered into new areas and have expanded the area and the cultivation considerably. In fact, I'm surprised that he's talking about 1.1. There are estimates that Cote d'Ivoire is producing over 2.5 million metric tons of cocoa. So that is the situation, and I'm trying to give a picture, explanation as to why the different rates. Why is stagnant going back because of the disease, old trees, and there's expansion of area and the cultivation with new, young, vibrant trees. Thank you.
Yes. So, Honorable Omni, if I got you right, are you suggesting that the AFDB facility, which you procured, is likely to assist in addressing these challenges in the industry by way of rehabilitation and creates a new environment for our farmers to get a better yield?
Absolutely, Honorable Chairman. It means that this, we've been negotiating for this loan for about 2-3 years, and it's only last year that was finally approved. We are yet to draw down the first tranche, but it's definitely going to accelerate the process of cutting out these trees and expanding our rejuvenating our old cocoa areas by replanting with high-yielding, early maturing trees, which will boost Ghana's production in the medium term. Thank you.
Yeah, so you are correcting my figures. You are saying that the Ivorian estimate is actually 2.5 million. 2.5 million. So that just buttresses my point that they increased by about 1 million and then you increased by 20,000 tons. Now, you are attributing almost every reason why this is happening to cocoa disease. Don't you think that the key difference is in the liberalization on the Ivorian side and the continuing state control of production and marketing on the Ghanaian side, resulting into inefficiency in input, cost and other factors, and the monopoly that the state is exercising over the marketing means that it is only the resources that the state is able to mobilize that gets injected into the cocoa industry, whereas the liberalized side, the liberalized program of the Ivorian side, is pushing a lot of people into investing in cocoa production, which is exponentially seen to this expansion that we are seeing in it. So are you willing to really reconsider this state control and monopoly of inputting into cocoa production and the marketing of cocoa produce and the monopoly in the export of cocoa products in cocoa beans in Ghana?
Thank you. Honorable Chair, I think Honorable Ayaraga is asking all the right questions. And it has an underlying philosophical implication as to whether state control or private sector control is the best. This argument can go on forever. But I want to assure him that the system that we have today was actually started in 1947, not yesterday. And it has served us very well indeed. We are just going through a transit period. We were the dominant force in world cocoa production for more than a century and a half. I would want to remind him. It's only the last 20 years or so that Ivory Coast has taken over from us. So we shouldn't despair. At the peak of it in the beginning of the 1990s, Ghana and other African countries came under very heavy fire from the World Bank, from these Washington institutions to liberalize. The best we did was to liberalize the local internal marketing. And we left the core function to the state. And I think those who resisted then did a very good job. Because in as much as we are looking at production and saying the system is better than this, there are a lot of problems with our Ivorian system, huge problems that are emerging. And given another 10 years or so, when things mature, we will see which system. But at least in our case, we have decades and decades of experience and have some of the best personnel, technical people managing our industry, from research through marketing and so on. And these are very dedicated people who, by world standards, can compare with any in the world. And I think that we should take comfort in that and not look at the temporal, short-term performance of production to change our system. Thank you.
A follow-up question on that one, sir. No, follow-up question, sir. No, please. A follow-up question, please.
Let's go ahead.
The last time you appeared before us, I asked you a question about cotton production. Cotton production and what?
Chair, since he's moving to cotton, Chair, with your leave, since he's going into cotton, may I, as the nominee, would you say that the aspects of the state control, would you say that the aspect of state control in the cocoa sector has resulted in high quality of Ghana's cocoa as compared to Cote d'Ivoire? Because we're talking about experienced hands and way we ensure quality control and all that. I am saying that, the metaphor my colleague was trying to create in terms of the yield and all that, and your emphasis on quality. Is it your case that as a result of the state control of aspects of the value chain is what has led to continuously Ghana's cocoa being of the highest quality?
Yes, indeed. Honorable Chairman, Ghana is reputed to have by far the best quality cocoa beans in the world. And in fact, the manufacturers of chocolate and other big processors abroad would take just a little bit of Ghana cocoa and mix it with Indonesian and other origins to bring it up to the level. This is why Ghana cocoa has historically had this premium on the terminal market of sometimes as high as 300 pounds per ton. And you are right, the Deputy Leader, to say that this has been possible because of the control, the central control that we have, and ensuring quality assurance and so on in the industry. Thank you.
Okay. I was going to do a follow-up on the same cocoa liberalization debate. It's a very important debate, Mr. Chairman. It's a follow-up. Chairman admitted follow-up. Now, if one country next door liberalizes and is able to increase income on those cash crops by, you mentioned, was it 1 billion or 18 billion? I mean 8 billion or 18 billion. Was it 18 billion is what comes to Ivory Coast through liberalization of the tree crop sector. And we get how much? 2 billion. 2.5 billion. Okay? That's in terms of income to the country, whether it's coming to government or private sector or it's being shared with the international investors or whatever. Then production increases. One side is producing, 2.5 million metric tons, and the other side is producing 800,000 metric tons. 800,000 metric tons. I mean, how can you say, because you are ideologically opposed to liberalization, this stark evidence of progress generated by liberalization is a problem? And how can the quality of cocoa production be tied to state control? It is a function of agronomic practices and supervision and the quality of seeds and fertilizer and etc., which the state could still supervise and control, even if it is being done by private sectors through your various regulatory institutions, Crop Research Institute, the Fertilizer Committee, and all those other bodies. Are you just opposed to liberalization ideologically, or you think liberalization cannot produce for Ghana the values and the income and the results that it is producing for Ivory Coast?
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. I wish we were in a different forum to debate this subject. I don't want to take us away from the essence of what we are doing here. It's a question of opinion, as he's expressing. So I think we will leave it there and then move on with our discussion.
A very important matter to me, fertilizer subsidy. The pricing of fertilizer subsidy. The amount of money we spend on importation of fertilizer. And ultimately, what I think is a huge inefficiency in the pricing of fertilizer because of the fertilizer subsidy. Now, can you tell us, relative to the world market of fertilizer, okay, how much as a country do you, let's say, purchase fertilizer per ton from the people that you award the contract for the supply of fertilizer? And don't you think that we'll all be better off if you just liberalized, opened up, and allowed as many people as possible who have funds to import fertilizer and sell directly to farmers, and therefore everybody can get as much as they want to buy? And then rather we compensate farmers with higher prices of the produce. Don't you think that would be a more efficient arrangement? Look at the figures, how much you are spending on fertilizer imports and how much food we are producing after that investment.
Honorable Chairman, I don't think that Honorable Ayaga wants to pursue me for a debate. The fact of the matter is that if you talk about the amount of money government spends on fertilizer and seeds, the quantity of food produced, and you put a figure on it, it is a very lucrative business for the government to invest in agriculture. If you take maize and the others, in the first year, where we have the full figures for 2017 and 2018, government invested something like 600 million, for instance, in 2018, 600 million. No, let's take 2019. 851 million cedis. Now, the amount of food produced in terms of the grains, the direct effect, we are talking about the farm gate income of 1.8 billion cedis to the participating farmers. There couldn't be any better business than that. Apart from the surpluses that come to the cities, much cheaper, lowering inflation, all the macroeconomic benefits, directly inside the pockets of farmers who would then spend the money on secondary, tertiary things to increase the economy. You can't put a figure on it. So for me, it is a very good investment, except that you have these thieves who want to cheat the state by taking it and crossing the border with it because they stand to make a lot of money for themselves. And as I've said before, the ministry has taken very strenuous measures to reduce the smuggling to the minimum by restricting, and I don't want to go back to the numbers and the figures, restricting the movement of fertilizers to specific districts which are known to be doing it, from the Volta region all the way to Upper West, Chereponi and all those. I don't want to mention the names of the districts here. So, well, I didn't want to go there. So, apart from that, reducing the unit weight from 50 kilograms to 25 kilograms to make it more difficult for them to pack and unpack and all that, and then using these garrisons that military garrisons that are now crossing the west, the northern part of the country to stop the jihad and so on, collaborating with them to make sure that smuggling, they are patrolling the borders and all that. So we're taking great measures, and also labeling the 25 kilogram bags boldly with planting for food and jobs with a yellow diagonal band to identify it, and so on and so forth. So we are happy with the measures that we put in place to minimize smuggling of fertilizer. But when it comes to the policy itself of making sure that the poorest people in this country, who happens to be smallholder farmers, who cannot pay for the market price and have no clue that by using improved seed and fertilizer, they can treble or even quadruple their annual income, which is what we are seeing today, is much. I would recommend this to any government in Ghana or anywhere else with similar arrangement to carry on with that policy. Thank you.
Yes. Most grateful, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I would like to raise the matter to do with self-sufficiency in rice production. I've seen that the latest numbers, official statistics, are indicating that we are doing 665,000 metric tons in production, which is just about 50% of our demand. I would like to find out from the Honorable Nominee what the strategy is moving forward for self-sufficiency in rice production, because we have the capacity. In my own constituency, Afriyie rice, for example, what is the plan for the future of Afriyie rice? Prairie Volta Company Limited, as it was known, appears defunct at the moment, but all across this country, from the Volta region all the way to the northern regions, we have capacity to be self-sufficient in rice production. I want to find out from the Honorable Nominee what the strategy is moving forward, and do we have any timelines as to by what period Ghana can be self-sufficient in rice production?
I think, Honorable Chairman, I have already put my neck online. I'm saying that with all the confidence I can gather, that by 2023-2024, Ghana will be self-sufficient in rice, and maybe earlier. And I'm saying this with a quantity of improved rice seed, agro seed, that we've been distributing to these farmers in my past 4 years as the Minister for Food and Agriculture. I have the statistics here to give, and I don't want to bore you, but let me give you a few of them. The quantity of seeds that we supplied of rice seeds, agro seed, for PFJ was 1,698 metric tons in 2017. By 2020, that figure last year, we distributed 8,500 Just from roughly 1,700, we have distributed 8,500. And these are high-yielding seeds that we have distributed not only to the traditional areas in the northern savanna, but also to the valleys of the forest region, which are endowed with a lot of water suitable for rice cultivation. That the preparedness of the farmers to actually accept this new rice strain. I mean, last year around this time, in March, I went around the country, came to Eastern region, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing in the valleys. They become like Galamsey sites. Young men and women pour into these areas, growing rice, because the farm is so profitable that the uptake, they just even couldn't wait for Ministry of Agriculture to bring them the seeds. They were using, some of them were using traditional local seeds to plant. And you could see the difference between the agro seed and that. So we know that this will continue. We will continue to provide them more and more of these seeds. And with that, the yield are much higher. So we know that by 2023, 2024, in terms of actual production of paddy rice, we will reach the mark. The biggest constraint of all that is to do with milling capacity. Honorable Chairman, milling capacity, we estimate Ghana has a milling capacity of only 400,000 metric tons. If you want to reach 1.2 million metric tons, and you have only capacity for 400,000 metric tons, then you are in trouble. But in a way, we've been relieved by the demand for Ghana paddy rice from Nigeria and others. They are coming here and mopping up. And until the private sector, because government hasn't got money to be installing mills, so until the private sector, which has also started investing in mills, can catch up with the demand for milling capacity in Ghana, at least we'll be helped by our neighbors so the farmers do not waste their time producing and sitting there without any buyers. There are buyers from outside the country who will take them away. So the farmers will continue to produce so long as we give them the rice, seeds, and so on. So we are very confident, Honorable Member, that we will be able to do it. Afriyie rice. Well, Afriyie rice is very famous. We all know it. You mentioned this company, which Prairie and so on. They've been in dispute with us. I came to inherit that dispute. It still goes on unresolved, which is unfortunate because they came with very good intentions, and at the moment, all the areas that they prepared for planting have been taken over by private people, which is also very good, and most of them are young people. I've met a taxi driver in Accra who's farming rice near Afriyie. A lot of young people, even teachers, doing it part-time and so on, which is very encouraging. So we are here to help. So any member of parliament who can organize in his area a group of young people who are prepared to give them the seed and support them with the fertilizer and so on to make sure that they get some benefit from what we are doing. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my second question relates to concerns I have reading the Auditor General's report for 2018 and 2019, particularly with reference to the audit they have carried out on the planting for food and jobs. The audit report for 2018 at page 167, the Auditor General reveals that there is an outstanding debt on planting for food and jobs of 2,889,289. 2,889,289. And if I can read the paragraph 364, it says, under the planting for food and jobs, farmers are provided with farm inputs. The farmers are required to make upfront payment of 50% of the farm inputs before the farming season, and the remaining 50% loan payable after the farming season. During our review, we noted poor recovery of the loans from the farmers after the farming seasons. In 19 offices visited, we observed that out of a total of 5.5 million granted, only 2.2 million has been recovered thus far. This is 2018. In the 2019 report of the Auditor General, the matter comes up again at page 125, and this is at paragraph 252. Failure to recover debt from defaulters, 2,728,440 Ghana cedis. And it says indebtedness of tractor and equipment beneficiaries. That's also 3.1 million Ghana cedis. That's at page 130 of the report. At page 125 of the report, we are also told that failure to recover debt from defaulters of the Planting for Food and Jobs program, 2,728,440. So you're making all these investments, but the Auditor General is pointing to leakages. And I'm worried, will the PFJ be sustainable if these losses and these leakages with the Auditor General is reporting continues? Are you aware, are you privy to these audit findings, and what are you going to do to stop the hemorrhage?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm aware of these debts, these outstandings. But you know, we have to take it in context. We are talking about hundreds of millions of cedis worth of inputs, and these 2.8 million cedis and so on, even the banks do not recover to that level. It doesn't mean that it's not important to us. It is very, very important to us, and we are taking measures. And as and when we go, we are collecting. It's not a debt. It's not written off. It's still standing in the books. So we are aware of this. In fact, we have a dedicated auditor who goes around the country looking at these and reporting back to me directly as to how much of the debt in this district has been paid by who and all that. So I can assure the honorable member that it is not something that we are leaving unattended. I'm actively on top of the issue. The more, it's really a question of education. The farmers realize that before we gave these facilities, and I'm sure if the honorable member as his constituency, they will confirm to him that these facilities had never been provided by anybody. This is the first time. And they realize that they're endangering their chances if they carry on. Because once you have a debt in a group once and twice, that's it, we cut you off. You and the whole group, you will never benefit from the subsidies again. And initially, when we came and we said there is a penalty, they thought we were joking. But we put that into practice, and that's making people pay. Because if you look at the percentage, these figures that you've mentioned, 2.8, 2.7, 3.1, 2.7, and yet I'm talking about an increase from 414 million for seed and fertilizer to all the way to 954 million. So the percentage of it which goes unpaid is actually declining. If you look at the absolute figures, you may think it's, but definitely it's declining, and it's because of the efforts that we at the ministry are putting in to ensure that we retrieve, that obviously any credit of that nature in a rural environment, you will never be able to do 100%. But we are trying, that's our target. And I can assure the honorable member that it's not money lost at all. We are pursuing them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My third part of question will focus on your handing over notes. I have a copy here at page 215. I am quite alarmed that of the 3,751 vehicular fleet that you have, only 50 are tractors. That's your own writing. I can read it if you want me to refresh your memory. Paragraph 14.2, page 215. Inventory of assets and properties of the government. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture's total vehicular fleet of 3,751, consisting of 701 vehicles, 3,000 motorbikes, and 50 tractors and equipment for its operations. This is 50 tractors and equipment, less than even a quarter of the 260 districts we have in Ghana. I would have thought that tractors and equipment will rather be more than the vehicles and motorbikes. I can understand that, especially the extension officers who need motorbikes. But only 50 tractors for the whole Ministry of Food and Agriculture? Is this figure accurate, and exactly what is going on?
Hello, Chairman. I'm surprised that the Member of Parliament is expressing surprise, because when the farm mechanization centers were established under the Kufuor administration in 2006, and they built up, I think, 56 farm mechanization centers where smallholders could go and hire services to plow and all that. In the subsequent years, 8 years, almost all of them came to a standstill because of lack of maintenance, spare parts, mismanagement, and so on. So when we came on board, there was virtually no farm mechanization centers really working. And that's the reason that we have only 50. Or even 50, I'm surprised, rather than in the reverse. I thought there would be no tractors. But we have restarted the program of farm mechanization centers with what we have received from Brazil so far, where we've given 52 local government authorities a core number of tractors and other things. We are going to add to it those who perform well. And then we've given another 100 and something to farmer groups that we've organized around the country. And then, of course, private sector people, commercial farmers, and so on, have also received them. The government of Akufo-Addo decided that to encourage mechanization, we are going to subsidize farm machinery, imported farm machinery, by 40%. So a tractor and a plow and others which should have cost over 230 cities were being sold to farmers. The big
Honorable Minister, let your record be clean. 230 cities?
230,000.
Very well.
Yes. You are going to be very interested if it was only 230. Okay. So, and with 145,000, you could have the whole set for the same amount. So we are re-establishing, and as I mentioned, the Brazilian facility, the last tranche is coming by the end of the first quarter. This quarter, the second quarter, we should start receiving them. And we intend to use these to establish more farm mechanization centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
I hope that the Honourable Nominee will. This is my follow-up on the third question on handing over notes.
Follow-up from this answer.
Follow-up on handing over notes. I said that my
follow-up on the answer, not notes. Please ask the question.
The nominee is assuring us that he will address this alarming situation of only 50 tractors that the ministry can boast of at the moment in the 260 districts. Can the nominee give us some timelines? You have said that you will work hard at it, but can we have some timelines? And some numbers, say by end of 2021, what will this increase to? Some specific numbers, if we can have that assurance.
Sorry, I don't have those figures with me, but I know that we are going to have a big infusion of farm machinery. $150 million from Exim Bank of India, and we're going to have this 33 or is it 34 million last tranche from Brazil. That's quite an infusion in 1 year to have. I'm sure it's unprecedented to have nearly $200 million worth of farm machinery coming into the country to do all kinds of things, on-farm, harvesting, and then off-farm processing, and so on. And so I know that we definitely are going to have a significant input of farm machinery into Ghanaian agriculture. That one I'm absolutely sure. But in terms of when it's going to be and so on, I don't have the figures with me. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Now, who? Okay. Giselle, you have one, and Zozo will have one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senior nominee, does your ministry have a mechanism to monitor the use of chemicals, especially weedicides, fertilizers, and so on, and the long-term effects of these chemicals on the human body?
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Yes, we have a division, actually it should be an authority, and we are working towards it, called the Plant Protection, PPRSD, Plant Protection, whatever it is. And they are the ones who are in charge by law in monitoring chemicals, in issuing permits for all plant materials coming into the country or going out of the country, the fertilizers, their effectiveness, the seeds, and so on. So it's a whole department with highly specialized staff who are there. It's just like the Food and Drug Board and the others, Standard Board and so on. They are there specifically for plant and animal life. In that way, they are I would say the plant police men of Ghana. They are at all the borders of Ghana, checking anything, food or plant source going out of the country or coming in, or animals coming in or out, including dogs at the airport and all those things. They have quarantine facilities and all that. So we do monitor chemicals, but the impression hidden in the question is the worry that too much chemicals will be spoiling our soils and so on, which is a concern that has been expressed to me many times. But we shouldn't forget that Ghana has one of the least application of chemical fertilizers in the world. And that's one of our problems, that we are not applying enough chemicals to boost our production, our productivity. So when we came into office, the average per hectare of fertilizer application in Ghana was only 8 kilograms per hectare, compared to the world average of 130 kilograms per hectare, and China of nearly 300 kilograms per hectare. So even the West African ECOWAS in 2007, the heads of state adopted a resolution that our target for West Africa is to raise our application of fertilizer to 50 kilograms per hectare. Since we came in, we managed to increase the per hectare application from 8 kilograms per hectare to last year 20 kilograms per hectare, which is still less than half of the ECOWAS heads of state standard. So we are very far away from polluting the soils and environment with fertilizers. And I can assure the honorable member that we are keeping an eye through the monitoring of PPRSD to ensure that we don't exceed the levels which will harm our environment and the food intake. Thank you.
Honorable Owusu.
I'm sorry, Chairman. I have another question.
We agreed on one each, didn't we? That's what we agreed with the leaders. Honorable Owusu, please.
Chairman, it's a follow-up question, please. I hope you have enough manpower in that department, though. My other question is, who controls the proliferation of hydroponic systems? Who controls the proliferation of hydroponic systems? Hydroponics. Hydroponics. I should take off my mask. Hydroponics. Yes. The proliferation of them. Yes.
Now I understand your question. Yes, I mean, hydroponics is one area of, I would say, water agriculture. And the process that we are doing is what we call the greenhouse villages. And if you come to Bojuase, to our center there, that's your constituency. So you should visit Bojuase.
I said who controls?
Yes. So there's a whole area of hydroponics where we are producing vegetables based on just water and the chemicals that are mixed in there. So I would entreat the honorable member to visit Bojuase of.
I have visited. I'm asking who controls that whole industry.
Oh,
it's allowed to run that.
The Ministry of Food and Agriculture does control. Actually, that Bojuase site belongs to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. So it belongs to the ministry. And there are 3 of such, including Bojuase in Ghana, one in Dawinya and one in Akumadan in Ashanti region, which we have done together with the Israeli company, which is what it is.
Mr. Chairman, I will engage the nominee later.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My question has to do with power tilers that was promised in your 2016 manifesto. And having been the minister over the last 4 years, I'm sure you would have some ideas about the power tilers. In 2018 budget of the government, it was stated that the government intends to distribute 1,000 power tilers and 1,000 power tilers. Is it less? I mean, yes. Okay. Very well. Very well. Power tilers. And then in the 2020 budget, government indicated that it had imported the 1,000 power tillers. There is, however, no evidence to suggest that these power tillers have been distributed to the farmers. Can you tell the committee whether they have been distributed and who the beneficiaries are?
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Yes, indeed. We imported these power tillers from Brazil, and specifically power tillers because we wanted farm machinery technology which would be suitable to smallholder agriculture, not these huge tractors that are beyond their means and even for hiring. So yes, we brought the 1,000 power tillers in. We've distributed all of them except for a few. You are invited, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Chairman, to our site at Agricultural Engineering near Bema Camp. You can come there anytime and we'll show you whatever is left. But they've all been distributed. Where they've been distributed to, I'll have to get the details for you. But if you visit us, we'll make it available. Thank you.
Chair, as a quick follow-up, do you know the cost of how much it was, at what cost, the 1,000 power tillers?
Oh, these are very cheap. I think they're about 6,000 cedis a piece. They're not expensive at all.
Yes, leadership. You want to ask a question, yes?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Doc, congrats again. I've been worried about farmers' attitude toward farming. I don't know if you have some plan to set in place a framework to educate farmers, for them to appreciate farming as a business other than the usual approach to farming.
I think, Honorable Chairman, through the implementation of planting for food and jobs, a large majority of farming community, especially the smallholders, are beginning to see a change in their attitude towards farming. Because now surpluses, almost every farmer benefiting from planting for food and jobs is producing a surplus. And a surplus not only for the household, their household, but a surplus which keeps some in stock, and some of it they actually sell to meet their daily household requirements. I remember very well, Honorable Chair, visiting the palace of one of the biggest traditional chiefs in this country, the Nairi. And he told me this parable, that in his whole life, the first time that new maize has come to meet old maize was in my time as a Minister for Food and Agriculture. It's a parable because what he meant was that normally once you harvest, you consume with your household, and there's a gap, you have to wait for maybe 2-3 months before the new harvest comes in. But now these days, while the harvest is coming in, you still have stock of the previous year. And he said it never happened before. So you can see that farmers now have surpluses, not only to feed themselves and their families, but also to buy the necessities of life, a cloth for the wife, a shirt for the child, and so on and so forth. So that in itself, and they've never seen so much production for themselves ever. I mean, on average, you go to Sisala area where they used to harvest 4 bags of maize or 50 kilogram bags of maize with a traditional crop. Now some of them are doing 40 bags of maize in 1 acre. 40 bags with hybrid maize. So they are beside themselves that, hey, so technology can change our lives. So automatically, the man is looking at it as a business. He can build his house or renew his house, buy himself a motorbike, send his children to school with good, good uniforms and so on. So I think that planting for food and jobs is changing lives and lifestyles amongst the rural folks. Thank you.
Doug, I commend you highly. I've witnessed evidence of the change, especially with the advent of planting for food and jobs. But I'm quite concerned about non-traditional exports. What will be your plans in the next years ahead of us for specific to non-traditional exports?
The change in the armor of planting for food and jobs is the planting for export and rural development, for which an authority, Tree Crop Development Authority, has been created by this Parliament through the efforts of the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to diversify Ghana out of our monocrop economy, which has been hanging on our necks for over 140 years. And if this vision is transformed into implementation, that will be the leader in non-traditional exports. Right? It will become traditional in the sense that there are these tree crops which will produce it and earning as much as cocoa is earning us today, each one of the 6. In addition to that, we have the greenhouses, villages which we just mentioned in Bojuase and other places, which will be the nucleus of the vegetable industry in this country for export and for domestic tourist industry and hotels and so on and so forth. So these are all non-traditional exports, cashew and all the others, where we are making the greatest of effort to ensure that they become traditional in quotes, to join cocoa in giving this country the capacity, export earning capacity, to develop our health systems, our roads, infrastructure, and so on, and our schools and our educational system. Thank you.
Look, mango is reputed as the next green gold, and in the Sominya belt, it's proven that we have 2 seasons, which is quite unique to us as a country. I recognize the success of CHOP with the tree planting initiative, but conspicuously missing is that of initiative on mango. And I know how passionate you are about mango. Are there any specific plans of supporting the growth and the plantation of mango in the future?
Yes, mango is one of the 6 crops selected for development. And mango is unique in the sense that of all the crops that we've selected for this venture, it is the only one where we have sufficient production capacity, enough trees and so on, that is blighted with 2 different types of diseases. The BBD, there's a black spot disease, and then you have these flies that also bear into the fruit and spoils, and that is through that we lose about 60% of our total production of mango. Fortunately, recently, in the last 2 years, we found this chemical from Israel and South Africa to do the BBD. And this application, I myself am a mango grower, and I know what I'm talking about. So it's been very effective in controlling the BBD. The fruit fly is still a menace to us. We are looking for opportunities to be able to control it, apart from creating these nets to catch them and all that, which is very cumbersome and is not very efficient. So there is a great potential for our mango industry in Ghana. And if we can get over these diseases, I tell you, Ghana will be one of the big mango exporters in the world. Thank you.
Well, sadly, I recall when we plagued as a nation by the fall armyworm, there was a lot of commentary relating to it. How successful have we been under your leadership in controlling the fall armyworm? And are there measures to avoid its reoccurrence?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In fact, we could say that the control of the fall armyworm is one of the biggest achievements of the first term of my leadership of the ministry. Fall armyworm first came into Ghana in 2016, the year before I took over. And by the time I realized when we took over, the insect was already doing the damage, but I had underestimated the rate at which the damage was going to be. And it took us until April before the alarm bells started ringing, and we started desperately looking for a solution. Because it was a new thing altogether. Our experts didn't know how to go about it. They hardly had to read about the biology of the insect, how to control it, how it's been done in Brazil and other places. Our extension officers had no idea. Our farmers, of course, had no clue. So before we realized and started fighting back, it was a bit late. So that year, the total area infested was 249,000 hectares. We were able to spray all the 249,000 hectares and to retrieve the area that had been affected, except 14,247 hectares which were destroyed by the armyworm. we launched this program of educating our extension officers and the farmers and getting the right chemicals for their control and the timing of the application. So the following year, 2018, we lost only 79 hectares from 14,000 to 47. The following year, 2018, we lost only 79 hectares. 2019, it was reduced to only 26 hectares. Past year, 2020, we didn't lose any hectare from fall army well. And it's because now we have the experience, the farmers have the experience, we're able to buy the right combination of chemicals, distribute them to the farmers on a timely basis so that they can spray. That is, if you are doing maize, for instance, you plant 2 weeks after planting, you just spray. Whatever it is, you spray. And that saves you all the hassle for the rest of the 3 months or so that you need to harvest. So now, fall armyworm has become part of the biology of Ghana. It's not going to go away, but it's just like mosquito and malaria. So long as you know how to control it, it's part of the fauna, but we know how to handle it and bring it under control. So as I speak to you, Honorable Chairman, I can say that we have defeated the fall armyworm. Thank you.
Well, I guess we didn't budget for or against the invasion of the armyworm.
2017.
We didn't budget for it. So how did you deal with it? Where did you get the funding to deal with it?
Honorable Chairman, I had to go to Cabinet and present a case of force majeure that we are being invaded by an army. There's an army of insects which are going to hit our stomachs by destroying our food systems if we didn't do anything. So Cabinet allocated to us 10 million Ghana cedis as a special emergency funding, and that's what we use to buy the chemicals. But subsequent years, we put it in our budget, and I can give you the amount of money we spend every year on the chemicals to control the fall armyworm, the insect.
So I've also read that we've become net exporter of some food items during your last 4 years.
Yes.
How did you do it? How sustainable is this feat going into the future?
Thank you very much. Honorable Chairman, this is something which the whole of West Africa and the international community have come to accept as one of our achievements. In 2019, we exported 19 different food items, 150,000 metric tons of them, worth something like $90 million US. If you go through the books of the Ministry of Finance, you won't find this, because these are all, the trade is very informal. People bring CFA into this country, they change it, and then they buy these things and take them away. And instead of our customs at the borders checking and making sure that we receive whatever is required of us and the foreign exchange are returned and so on, that doesn't happen. So I call it ECOWAS trade. And we have become a major breadbasket of West Africa. Have people coming all the way from Kano to buy our foodstuffs. We also export plantains and so on from Agogo and so on into Burkina Faso, where traders have their own area for Agogo plantain. Nothing else, but not only from Ghana, but just specifically for Agogo. And they are making brisk business. I'm sure you saw the television footage of it where a camera and a crew followed the truck of one of the traders into Burkina Faso and interviewed all the people in the value chain, the competition from Cote d'Ivoire, the fact that Ghana plantain is much preferred because of quality and is of higher price and all those things. So it's something that we have sustained. Even this year, the past year when we had drought in the south, heavy drought in a major season, heavy drought in a minor season, we temporarily drove out the price of maize in December, January. Now you see that the price of maize is coming down because the harvest from the north is feeding into the south, into the poultry and other places. I gave as a precaution a permit, Honorable Chairman, very interesting. I gave the poultry farmers sent a petition, they were pressurizing me. I gave 4 different permits for them to import yellow maize for their, and none of them was able to bring it in. Why? Because even with a high price, the world price was much higher than what we were receiving here. So it shows you the impact that Planting for Food and Jobs has had on this economy. And we intend that with the way things have gone, it's very sustainable to make sure that all farmers in Ghana actually come into the program to further the growth in our agricultural systems. Thank you.
Look, Afriyie scientists or some Afriyie scientists have advocated the need for agro-index insurance. I know a number of jurisdictions, even in the sub-region, I think Kenya and largely Uganda, who are practicing it. I am not one person who advocates for a full-scale agriculture insurance, but I think it's something that we can do if we probably focus on, for a start, at least the non-traditionals or our staples. Is this something that has crossed your mind, and are you considering it, of ensuring that maybe Ghana looks at in the face of the climate vulgarities, climate change, the weather patterns and all that?
Thank you, Hello Chairman. Indeed, I've had a few inquiries in my office of foreign insurance companies wanting to come and set up crop insurance. But we are at very early stage. I mean, we've actually been focusing on increasing the growth of our, first of all, of our food crops, for food security and all those things, and making sure that all farmers, smallholders, are reached with improved seed and fertilizer. But I think the next stage will be to look at this. 2 of them have brought proposals which we haven't yet considered, I must confess, because there's too much on our plate at the moment. But I think that in this second term, it will be on the agenda to look at this crop insurance as a way of strengthening and sustaining the growth that we've managed to achieve in agriculture. Thank you.
Look, I recognize you answered a question relating to irrigation, but this is specific to the Accra Plains. I've checked a number of State of the Nation address, and often it's been mentioned. Large acreage of land lying fallow. Is there any plan to develop the Accra Plains in the context of irrigation?
When I was in this August House as a ranking member, I remember battling it out with my counterparts on the other side of the promise that they are going to irrigate their farm plains with money from China. The infamous CBD, 3 billion, part of it was going to. And I remember I used to stand on this floor to lambast them that they promised, but we don't see anything coming out of that. And really, nothing came out of that. At the moment, the Akufo-Addo government is looking at Pwalugu for the irrigation, a major, the biggest investment, one single investment in the northern savannah, which is nearly $1 billion of dam, electricity generation, and 4,000, I think it's 15,000 hectares of irrigated land in the Boko, in the Pwalugu area. So that is our focus at the moment, and I think that to spend that kind of money on irrigation, which is only one of many activities for development in agriculture, is real commitment by this government to irrigation in Ghana. Thank you.
Look, organic products globally attracts wonderful premium. Is your ministry considering or has some plans of facilitating farmers who have the desire to go into organic product?
Yes, in fact, organic fertilizers are part of our scheme of fertilization. So we have contract with organic producers. Of course, it means there is demand for from organic farmers for fertilizers, organic fertilizers. As we speak, we haven't fashioned out any specific policy for the development of organic products. Our policy is to increase the general productivity of smallholder farmers as a means of transforming the agricultural economy, and through which to transform the economy of Ghana, including, of course, the strategic planting for export and rural development, which is giving rise to the authority. So I'm sure that along the way, as we increase the volumes, the issue of organic products will come up for special mention, and I'm sure investors will be going in there because they will find it much more profitable than ordinary products. Thank you.
Doug, school farms. I recall when we were at school, we used to go to school farms and it became part of us. It's really becoming a thing of the past. Personally, I think it's a good culture, and also feeding into overarching dream of farming and food security. Do you have any plans in this regard? And then finally, what legacy would you want to leave behind as a minister for food and agriculture?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Yes, indeed. A major component of planting for food and jobs is to promote interest among students in junior JHS and SSS, and in fact even in universities. So we have a special program that we are doing with schools across the country, and unfortunately I thought I brought the statistics to show you as to the number of schools that are participating in this, but I can't, it escapes me, I cannot find it at the moment. So, but I can assure you that there are hundreds and hundreds of schools which are within that program, where we give them the seeds and the fertilizers, and it's getting very popular indeed. I mean, we have about 10 tertiary institutions that are participating in the program, and I think about 150 schools across the country. More schools are coming on board, but showing a lot of promise in order to gain the interest of students at an early age before they go into tertiary or they go into the world, to look at agriculture as an option for as a career where you can make a decent living out of. So it's something that is very much part of what we are doing.
Thank you, Chair.
Well, the Chair is on his way back. Honorable Afriyie, are you going to ask questions? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was waiting for you to sit so that I can make reference to you. I have in my hand the handover note of the Minister of Food and Agriculture. page 213, Honorable Minister, under the heading Legal Suits. And I quote, Mr. Chairman, the Ministry has been notified with legal suit by former clients and some past members of staff for perceived injustice by plaintiffs. The issues include demand for payment for contractual transactions and compensation. It is recommended that a review is undertaken of such cases to determine possible out-of-court settlements where possible. And then the undernote there said the critical issues are segregated into 30, 60, and 90 days in Appendix 16. The Honorable Minister, when you go to Appendix 16, it's not there. It's not in Appendix 16. Are these information available, and will you be willing to provide those details of the legal suits to the committee?
If they are part of the records of the ministry, I don't see why we cannot provide it. Yes, we will.
Thank you. Honorable Chairman, I want to find out, in an earlier answer to a question on the audit of the Kokoros, in answering, he did not give the precise answer of whether the report is ready and where is the report. Can I find out from him where is the report and is the report ready?
Sir, I couldn't hear you properly. I think your thing is too close, so I can't. Yeah.
I'm asking that when you assume office, you authorize the auditing of the Kokoros.
Yes.
And an earlier question, you were asked about the report of this audit, yes, and whether it was ready. And I didn't get the answer, so I'm asking, is the report ready and where is the report?
To be honest with you, I'll have to check with Ghana Cocoa Board. I'm the supervising minister. You know, Cocoa Board is a big organization, and their commitments and so on, I don't follow it on a daily basis. So you have to give me time to check with the management of Cocoa Board exactly what you're saying. I don't want to give you the wrong impression. Far from it. I want to be as accurate to this committee as possible. So if you give me time, I'll consult the Ghana Cocoa Board, and then I can get back to you.
Have you been informed that that audit is ready? Have they informed you that that audit is ready?
I don't recall.
But you don't also recall whether they have published the report?
I don't know Ghana, the Cocoa Board policy on publishing audit reports. That one I'm not sure.
But you can get a copy for this committee?
Yes. Why not? If it's available, I don't see why they will resist.
Do you have an idea which company did the audit?
No, sir.
And how much they paid for that work? You also have no idea?
I have no clue.
The procurement of fertilizer and chemicals by Cocoa Board, you are the supervising minister. Do you have an idea the method they've been using in the procurement?
These are very technical questions. I'm only a supervising minister. They have a board of directors who decide on policy, and my job is to make sure that the policy established by the board is followed to the letter. So the details about who is what and so on, I'll have to get back to them to give you that information.
But you know you are the supervising minister, you are supposed to get us their annual report to Parliament. And they are supposed to submit this at least 3 months after every year, and you too, within 6 months of each year, you have to now forward the report to Parliament. And you don't have these details, you don't know anything about how they are making their procurement.
They are supposed to submit it to the board for approval. I'm in touch with the chairman of the board. So I have to find out from him the status of these reports, and if they are available, I will make them available to Parliament.
Do you remember submitting any, from 2017 to date, submitting any of their annual reports to Parliament?
I don't recall.
Now that's one of your core functions and responsibility as a minister playing oversight to Cocoa Board.
Yes, but...
so you don't have a checklist in the ministry to be sure the things that you are supposed to present to Parliament annually, to be sure that you do that so that you don't fail?
Mr. Chairman, I'm only a supervising minister. The board is in place to look at these issues and to advise me. If they don't come up with these issues to me, I have a lot of other authorities under me and my own ministry and so on. So the member of Parliament